The howls tearing through the Gangnam district weren't human anymore. I pressed myself against the rain-slicked glass of the penthouse window, my basket of medicinal herbs crushed against my chest as another inhuman snarl shattered the night air. 40 floors below, the streets had emptied. Smart people knew better than to be outside when the Choi twins lost control. But I wasn't smart. I was broke, desperate, and apparently suicidal enough to deliver herbs during an alpha rage episode. "Get away from the window!" A security guard shoved past me, his face pale with terror. The twins are in full feral state. If they break containment, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. Everyone in Seoul knew what happened when Choi Min-jun and Choi Si-won went feral. Last time, they'd hospitalized 30 people before the tranquilizer darts finally took them down. The time before that, they demolished an entire restaurant with their bare hands. And this time, the news said they'd been raging for 3 days straight. I should have left. Should have taken my pathetic delivery fee and gotten as far from the Choi brothers' territory as possible. But something in my chest pulled me forward. A strange warmth that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with instinct I didn't understand. Through the glass, I could see them. Two massive figures in the courtyard below, both partially shifted, caught between human and wolf. Min-jun, the older twin by 7 minutes, had always been the colder one, all sharp edges and calculated cruelty. Now his eyes blazed crimson as he threw himself against the reinforced barriers, black claws tearing through steel like paper. Si-won, the gentler twin, and I use that term loosely, was somehow worse. His rage felt personal, targeted, like he was fighting something inside himself that he desperately wanted to destroy. Blood dripped from wounds that appeared spontaneously across his arms, as if the fury was literally tearing him apart from within. "How long have they been like this?" I whispered to a terrified intern, cowering beside me. 3 days. Her voice shook. "Ever since the merger deal fell through, someone said Min-jun killed it on purpose, and Si-won blamed him. And then they just..." She made an explosive gesture. "The company's been trying everything. Sedatives, binding magic, even flew in a specialist from Japan. Nothing works. They just get angrier." I knew I should stay quiet. Keep my head down like I'd been doing for the past 23 years. As a rejected Omega, cast out by my pack for being defective, I had exactly zero authority to speak. Hell, I wasn't even supposed to be in this part of the building. The rejection mark on my inner wrist burned as if reminding me of my place. But watching those two destroy themselves, watching the fear ripple through every person in this tower, something in me cracked. "Why don't they just let them fight it out?" I asked before I could stop myself. Every head within earshot turned to stare at me like I'd suggested we all strip naked and dance in the courtyard. The head of security, a grizzled beta named Kim Dae-hyun, looked at me with barely concealed contempt. His gaze caught on my herb basket, my cheap jacket, and most damningly, the faint shimmer of my rejection mark peeking out from under my sleeve. "Let them fight?" His voice dripped with disdain. "You stupid creature. They'd kill each other. The Choi twins are the most powerful alphas in 3 districts. If they turn on each other in this state, half of Gangnam burns." I just meant silence, rejected filth. He cut me off with a slash of his hand. "You shouldn't even be on this floor. Security, remove this." A barrier shattered below. The sound was like a gunshot, and suddenly Min-jun was free. One arm unbound, claws extending as he swiped at his own brother. Si-won barely dodged, the older twin's claws tearing through his shirt and drawing blood. "Everyone back!" Dae-hyun's voice cracked with panic. "Snipers, ready the tranquilizer rounds." "No." The word left my mouth before I could think. "What?" "You'll make it worse." I stepped closer to the window, watching the way Min-jun's rage spiked every time someone shouted an order, the way Si-won's eyes flickered with something like desperation every time a dart missed. "Can't you see? The more you fight them, the more their wolves take over. You're feeding the rage. And what would a rejected Omega know about alpha rage?" Someone sneered from the crowd. "Everything," I wanted to say. "I know what it's like to have something inside you that everyone says is wrong. Something you can't control. Something that makes people look at you like you're broken." But I didn't say that. Instead, I watched as Si-won managed to pin Min-jun for half a second, and in that brief moment of contact, something shifted. The younger twin's eyes cleared, just slightly, and his hand came up to grip his brother's wrist, not to fight, but to hold on. Like he was drowning, and Minjun was the only solid thing left. Then the moment shattered, and they were at each other's throats again. They need each other, I murmured, understanding clicking into place. The rage isn't coming from hate, it's coming from separation. They're twins bonded from birth. Whatever happened, it broke something between them, and now their wolves are trying to fight their way back to enough. Daehyun grabbed my arm, hard enough to bruise. Get this reject out of here before I have him arrested for. The world exploded. Not literally, but it felt like it. One of the barriers gave way completely, and suddenly both twins were free, their combined rage creating a pressure wave that shattered every window on the lower floors. People screamed, alarms blared, and through it all, I felt that pull in my chest grow stronger, almost painful. Like something was calling to me, or like I was calling to them. Let me go, I said quietly. What? Let me go. I met Daehyun's eyes, and for the first time in my life, I didn't look away first. I can help them. He laughed. Actually laughed. You? A broken omega who can't even shift? What could you possibly? I didn't wait for permission. I twisted out of his grip, thank you. Years of avoiding pack enforcers, and ran for the elevator. Stop him! Daehyun's voice echoed behind me. But I was already moving, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The elevator ride down was the longest 40 seconds of my life. What was I doing? I couldn't shift. I had no pack, no power, no reason to think I could do anything except get myself killed. The rejection mark on my wrist throbbed in agreement, a constant reminder that my own pack had deemed me worthless. But my grandmother's voice whispered in my memory, Jihoon, you have a gift. One day, someone will need it more than their next breath. And you'll know. I'd never understood what she meant. I had no wolf, no strength, nothing that marked me as special. Just a rejection scar and an inexplicable ability to sense emotions that did me absolutely no good. The elevator doors opened to chaos. The courtyard was a war zone. Minjun and Siwon circled each other like the predators they were, both bleeding, both snarling, both seconds away from doing something irreversible. Security teams surrounded them at a safe distance, weapons raised but useless. No one noticed me slip through the side entrance. No one except them. The moment my foot touched the courtyard stone, both twins' heads snapped toward me in perfect unison. Their crimson eyes locked onto my movement, and for a heartbeat, the entire world went silent except for their synchronized breathing. Predators. Identifying. Prey. Oh, this was a terrible idea, I muttered. But my feet kept moving forward anyway, drawn by that inexplicable pull. Don't! Someone screamed from above. He'll tear you apart. Probably. But I'd been torn apart before by my pack, by their rejection, by every person who'd looked at me and seen nothing worth saving. At least this time, I'd choose how it happened. I was 10 feet away when Minjun moved. He was faster than anything human should be, closing the distance in a blink, claws raised and definitely not in a friendly greeting kind of way. I didn't have time to dodge, didn't have time to think. I just did what instinct screamed at me to do. I reached out and pressed my palm against his chest, right over his racing heart. The world stopped. I'm talking full-on frozen in time, stopped. Minjun's entire body went rigid under my hand, his raised claws hovering inches from my throat. The crimson bleeding from his eyes like water draining away, revealing the most stunning dark brown underneath brown that was currently staring at me with an expression caught between shock and something that looked almost like recognition. His lips parted. You? Then Siwon hit me from the side. Not violently, but with enough force to knock the breath from my lungs as he grabbed my other hand and pressed it against his own chest, right over his heart that was beating just as frantically as his brother's. The effect was instantaneous. The younger twin's rage collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. His knees actually buckled, and I found myself the only thing keeping both of them upright as they leaned their considerable weight against my much smaller frame. A collective gasp rippled through the courtyard. Impossible, someone breathed. Minjun's hand came up to cover mine, pressing it harder against his chest like I was the only thing anchoring him to sanity. His breathing, which had been harsh and erratic, steadied into something almost normal. Siwon's forehead dropped to my shoulder, and I felt him shudder, with what might have been relief or exhaustion or both. Don't. Minjun's voice was rough from screaming, but the single word was perfectly lucid. Don't let go. My brain was having trouble processing what was happening. These were the Choi twins, the most dangerous alphas in Seoul, men who made billion-won deals before breakfast and destroyed competitors before lunch. And they were clinging to me, a rejected Omega, who delivered herbs for rent money like I was the only real thing in their world. Who are you? Siwon whispered against my shoulder, his breath warm even through my jacket. Nobody, I said automatically, because that's what I'd been told my entire life. Liar! Minjun's thumb traced over my pulse point, and holy hell, that should not feel as good as it did. Tell me your name. Jihoon. Han Jihoon. Jihoon, he repeated, like he was testing how it felt in his mouth. Then louder, addressing the stunned courtyard while still not releasing me. This man just accomplished what your scientists and specialists couldn't do in 3 days. What do you call that? Silence. Then Daehyun's voice, thick with confusion, and something that sounded like fear. How is he even standing? Your combined alpha pressure should have dropped him to his knees. Good question, actually. I could feel their power pressing against me like a physical weight, the kind of dominance that made normal omegas submit automatically. But it just slid off me, like water off glass. He's not normal, Siwon said, his hand moving to my wrist, the one with the rejection mark. I tried to pull away, shame flooding through me, but his grip, while gentle, was absolute. Don't, I whispered. Please. That's a rejection mark. Minjun finished, his eyes darkening with something dangerous. Who rejected you? Does it matter? I'm broken, wrong, my own pack. Your pack, Siwon interrupted, his voice taking on an edge that made several security guards step back, is comprised of idiots. Despite everything, the fear, the confusion, the absolutely insane situation I'd walked into, I laughed. Actually, laughed. You don't even know me. I know, Minjun said, his eyes boring into mine with an intensity that made my stomach flip, that you walked into a courtyard with 2 feral alphas to help us when everyone else was content to watch us destroy each other. I know that your touch stopped a rage that nothing else could touch. And I know, his hand tightened over mine, that you're not leaving. Excuse me? You heard him, Siwon added, finally lifting his head from my shoulder but not releasing my wrist. You're staying with us. I don't think that's how this works. Mr. Choi. A woman in an expensive suit came running across the courtyard, tablet in hand. Thank God you're both. She stopped short when she saw me. Her expression cycled through confusion, recognition of my rejection mark, and then cold calculation. Who is this? Ours, both twins said simultaneously. The woman's perfectly made-up face twitched. I'm sorry, ours. This is clearly some Omega who... Senior Director Yoon. Minjun's voice could have frozen fire. Choose your next words very carefully. But I'd stopped listening because the rejection mark on my wrist had started burning. Not the dull ache I was used to, but white-hot agony that made me gasp. Both twins felt me tense. What's wrong? My mark? I couldn't finish because suddenly I was seeing things. Flashes of memory that weren't mine. A younger Minjun and Siwon, barely teenagers, being torn apart by their father's will, forced to compete, trained to see each other as rivals instead of brothers. Years of resentment building until it finally exploded 3 days ago when the vision cut off as abruptly as it started, leaving me dizzy and confused. Jihoon? Siwon's hand cupped my face, tilting it up so he could see my eyes. What just happened? I shook my head, trying to make sense of it. I saw you, both of you, your past, how you were. I looked at Minjun. You did kill that merger on purpose, because the CEO wanted Siwon to lead it, wanted to make him the successful twin, and you couldn't watch him be used like that again. The courtyard went deadly silent. Minjun's expression was unreadable. How could you possibly know that? I don't know. When I touched you, I felt everything. The rage wasn't about the deal. It was about him. I gestured to Siwon. You were trying to protect him, and he thought you were sabotaging him. And neither of you would just talk, so the rage kept building until you. Siwon finished softly. The mark on my wrist pulsed again, but this time it didn't burn. It glowed. Soft, silver light that made everyone in the courtyard take a collective step back. "What the hell?" I whispered. Senior Director Yoon's face had gone pale. "That's not a rejection mark anymore." "What?" "Look at it." I did. The ugly scar tissue that had marked me as worthless, as rejected, was changing. The raised edges smoothed out, and delicate silver lines formed an intricate pattern that seemed to shimmer with its own light. "A soul mark," someone whispered in awe. "That's impossible," Jihoon protested. "Soul marks are legends. They don't actually." "They do." A new voice cut through the crowd. An elderly man in traditional hanbok stepped forward, his weathered face creased with wonder. "When a rejected Omega survives their casting out, sometimes the moon goddess grants them a second chance. A true bond, not forced by pack law, but chosen by fate itself." "Fate didn't choose anything," I said. Even as the mark continued to transform, the patterns spiraling up my forearm in delicate silver filigree. "It's a mistake. I'm nobody special." "You calmed two feral alphas with a touch," the old man said gently. "You saw their truth when no one else could. And now the goddess herself marks you as worthy." "Tell me, child, what about that seems ordinary?" I didn't have an answer. My whole life, I'd been told I was broken because I couldn't shift, because I was too weak, too wrong. And now these people were looking at me like I was something precious. It was terrifying. "Jihoon." Minjun's voice brought my attention back to him. His hand was still over mine, still pressed against his chest. "How do you feel? Right now, in this moment, how do you feel?" Honest answer? Like, I'm about to pass out. Using whatever this power is drained me completely, and I haven't eaten since yesterday because I spent my last one on bus fare to deliver these stupid herbs, and everything is spinning, and I really need to sit. I didn't finish because my legs decided they were done holding me up. Both twins caught me before I hit the ground, their arms forming a cradle that was surprisingly gentle for two men who'd been trying to kill each other 5 minutes ago. "Get the medical team," Siwon barked. "Now." "And food," Minjun added. "When was the last time you had a proper meal?" "Define proper," I mumbled against his chest, which was very solid and warm, and smelled like rain and something darker I couldn't name. His arms tightened. "That's what I thought." "Mr. Choi," Senior Director Yoon tried again. "We really need to discuss the merger situation in the board meeting tomorrow. Reschedule it." "But sir," the investors. I said reschedule. Minjun's tone left no room for argument. "My brother and I have more important matters to attend to." "Like making sure Jihoon doesn't die of malnutrition?" I asked, trying for sarcastic but landing somewhere closer to pathetically hopeful. "Exactly like that," Siwon confirmed, and the softness in his voice made something in my chest ache. As they carried me toward the tower entrance because apparently walking was no longer an option, I caught sight of my reflection in one of the unbroken windows. The silver mark on my arm glowed softly in the evening light, no longer a brand of rejection but something that looked almost like a promise. And wrapped around me, moving in perfect synchronization like they'd been doing it their whole lives, the two most dangerous alphas in Seoul held me like I was something worth protecting. I should have been terrified, should have been planning my escape. Instead, I was thinking about how Minjun's heartbeat had steadied under my palm, how Siwon's rage had melted at my touch, and how for the first time in 23 years, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as broken as everyone said. The moon was rising over Seoul, full and silver and watching, and I had the strangest feeling my life was about to get a whole lot more complicated. Complicated turned out to be an understatement. The elevator ride to the top floor was silent, except for the soft chime marking each passing level. Minjun stood on my left, still holding me upright with one arm wrapped around my waist. Siwon mirrored him on my right, his hand resting possessively on my lower back. Between them, I felt impossibly small and simultaneously safer than I'd ever felt in my life, which was insane. These men were strangers, dangerous strangers who'd been tearing each other apart 10 minutes ago. "You can put me down now," I said, testing the waters. "I can walk." "No," they said in unison. I blinked. "That's not creepy at all." Siwon's mouth twitched. "You nearly fainted." "Nearly doesn't count. I'm fine." You're malnourished, exhausted, and just used a power you didn't know you had. Minjun's voice was matter-of-fact, but his grip tightened slightly. You're not fine. Wow. Tell me how you really feel. I just did. The elevator doors opened onto a penthouse that probably cost more than my entire neighborhood. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering Seoul skyline, the Han River snaking through the city like a ribbon of light. Minimalist furniture, abstract art that I recognized from a documentary about artists I couldn't afford to breathe near, and a kitchen that looked like it had never seen actual cooking. Of course you live here, I muttered. Why wouldn't you live in a place that costs more than my life? Stop that, Siwon said quietly. Stop what? Putting yourself down. He guided me toward a leather couch that probably cost more than my yearly income. You just saved our lives. Show some respect for yourself. I would have laughed, but he sounded genuinely bothered. I didn't save your lives, I just touched you. You did more than that. Minjun disappeared into the kitchen, already pulling out ingredients with the efficiency of someone who actually knew how to cook. You saw our memories, felt our emotions. That's not normal even for omegas. Yeah, well, nothing about me is normal. I sank into the couch, and sweet mercy, it was like sitting on a cloud. My pack made that very clear. Your former pack, Siwon corrected, settling beside me. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. They don't have a claim on you anymore. Actually, they still do. Rejection marks are permanent unless I stopped, looking down at my wrist where the silver pattern now glowed softly. Unless something breaks them. Which you did, Minjun called from the kitchen. The sound of chopping filled the silence. The moment that mark changed, any legal claim they had dissolved. How do you know that? Because my family has been studying pack law for 3 generations. He appeared with a glass of water and what looked like a protein bar. Drink, eat, then we'll talk. I wanted to argue, but my stomach chose that moment to growl loud enough to wake the dead. Mortifying. Siwon's lips twitched again. When did you last eat? I told you. Yesterday. A full meal, Jihoon. The way he said my name, soft and careful like it was something precious, made my chest do weird things. Define full. His expression darkened. I'm going to kill your former pack alpha. Get in line. I've been planning his demise for years. I bit into the protein bar and holy hell, even their snacks were expensive. This tastes like it costs more than my rent. It probably does, Minjun said, returning with a plate of perfectly sliced fruit and cheese. Your rent is probably criminal. How would you know what my rent is? Because you said you spent your last one on bus fare. That means you're living somewhere cheap enough to make that choice necessary. He sat on the coffee table directly in front of me, close enough that our knees almost touched. Which ends now? I nearly choked on the protein bar. Excuse me? You're staying here. I absolutely am not. You collapsed from malnutrition, Siwon pointed out, after calming 2 feral alphas. You clearly need. I need to go home, feed my cat, and figure out what the hell just happened to my wrist. I stood up, or tried to. Siwon's hand on my shoulder kept me seated with almost no effort. Let me go. No. This is kidnapping. This is protection, Minjun corrected. Your mark changed in front of 50 witnesses. By morning, every pack in Seoul will know there's a rejected Omega with a soul mark walking around. Do you have any idea how dangerous that makes you? I hadn't thought of that. Why would that make me dangerous? The twins exchanged a look, one of those silent conversations that people who'd known each other their whole lives could have without words. Because soul marks are rare, Siwon finally said. Rare enough that some packs would kill to study you. To use you. Use me how? You calmed us with a touch, Minjun said quietly. Imagine what that power could do in the wrong hands. An Omega who can control alpha rage? You'd be the ultimate weapon. The protein bar suddenly tasted like ash. I'm not a weapon. No, you're not. Siwon's hand moved from my shoulder to cup my face, tilting it so I had to meet his eyes. You're a person who deserves to be safe. Let us keep you safe. Why? The question came out smaller than I intended. You don't know me. I'm nobody to you. You're not nobody. Minjun's voice was firm. And as for why, he trailed off, looking at his brother again. Tell him, Siwon said softly. Tell me what? Minjun took a breath. When you touched us in the courtyard, when you saw our memories, we saw yours too. My blood ran cold. What? Not everything, he clarified quickly. Just flashes, emotions mostly. Your rejection ceremony, the pain of the mark being carved into your wrist, years of being told you were worthless. His jaw clenched. We felt all of it. That's not possible. I wasn't trying to. The bond goes both ways, Siwon explained. When you opened yourself to calm us, you opened a channel. We felt what you felt. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. We felt your loneliness. I jerked back, shame flooding through me. You had no right. You're right. We didn't. Minjun set the plate aside, his expression serious. But now that we know, now that we've felt even a fraction of what you've endured, there's no way in hell we're letting you go back to that life. That's not your choice to make. Then make it yours, Siwon challenged. Choose to stay, one night, let us feed you, make sure you're okay, and tomorrow if you still want to leave, we won't stop you. Promise? Promise. I should have said no. Should have walked out right then. But the truth was, I was exhausted, starving, and the thought of going back to my shoebox apartment with its broken heater and judgmental cat suddenly felt unbearable. One night, I agreed, but I'm sleeping on the couch. You can have the guest room, Minjun offered. Couch is fine. The guest room has a lock on the inside. He continued like I hadn't spoken. And it's 3 doors down from both our rooms. You'll be safe. The fact that he thought I'd need that reassurance said something, either about him or about what he'd felt from my memories. Fine. Guest room. I grabbed another piece of fruit, suddenly ravenous now that I'd started eating. But tomorrow, I'm gone. Tomorrow, Siwon agreed, but something in his smile suggested he didn't believe me. Minjun disappeared back into the kitchen, and soon the smell of actual cooking filled the penthouse. My stomach growled again, louder this time. He stress cooks, Siwon explained, settling back beside me. After a rage episode, he needs to do something with his hands. And you? I usually destroy things. He flexed his fingers, and I noticed the bandages wrapped around his knuckles. But right now, I'd rather make sure you don't pass out again. I'm not going to pass out. Humor me. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city lights twinkle through the massive windows. It was surreal, sitting here with an alpha who'd been feral an hour ago, acting like this was normal. Can I ask you something? I ventured. Anything. Why do you two rage together? I mean, I saw the memory, the fight about the merger, but twin bonds are supposed to be stabilizing. You should balance each other, not make it worse. Siwon's expression grew distant. Our father didn't want us to balance each other. He wanted us to compete. From the time we could walk, everything was a contest. Who was faster, stronger, smarter? Who could shift first? Who could dominate more alphas? Who could make the company more money? His hands clenched. He pitted us against each other for 28 years. That's abuse. That's what we told him before we took over the company. A dark smile crossed his face. He didn't take it well. Where is he now? Retired. Forcibly. Minjun called from the kitchen. We bought out his shares and sent him to a very nice facility where he can yell at people who are paid to ignore him. I snorted. Remind me never to get on your bad side. Too late, Siwon said. You're already on our good side. There's no going back. Before I could process that statement, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out, and my stomach dropped at the name on the screen. Park Hyunwoo, my former Pack Alpha. Don't answer it, Siwon said, reading my expression. I have to. If I don't, he'll just keep calling. Then put it on speaker. I didn't want to, but something in his tone made it clear this wasn't a request. I hit the speaker button. Jihoon. Hyunwoo's voice was smooth, cultured, and hiding a core of absolute cruelty. I heard something interesting tonight. Something about you and the Choi twins. News travels fast. When it involves a rejected Omega suddenly sprouting a soul mark. Yes, it does. A pause. We need to talk. We really don't. That mark is pack property, Jihoon. You were rejected by my pack, which means any supernatural manifestations that occur afterward fall under our jurisdiction. That's not how it works, I said, but my voice shook slightly. Isn't it? Check Pack Law, Article 47, Subsection 3. Any Omega rejected by a pack remains under that pack's protection and authority until they join another pack or die. His voice hardened. You haven't joined another pack, which means you're still mine. The silver mark on my wrist flared hot, and suddenly I wasn't in the penthouse anymore. I was in a memory, not mine this time. A younger Hyun-woo, barely 20, standing in front of a terrified Omega. Not me, someone else. Someone whose name I instinctively knew was Min Seok-jin. Please, Seok-jin begged. I'll do better. I'll be stronger. Just don't. Hyun-woo's hand wrapped around his throat. You're weak, and weak Omegas have no place in my pack. The rejection mark being carved. The screams. And then 3 days later, Seok-jin's body found in the Han River. Ruled a suicide. I gasped, slamming back into the present. Both twins were staring at me, Min-jun having abandoned the kitchen at my distress. Jihoon? Siwon's hand found mine. What did you see? He killed someone, I whispered. An Omega named Min Seok-jin. Made it look like suicide. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. How do you know that name? Hyun-woo's voice came through the phone. No longer smooth. Now it was dangerous. I saw it. Your memory. You murdered him. Silence. Then, that's impossible. You can't. You're not a psychic. You're just a broken Omega who couldn't shift. Things change, I said, and hung up. My hands were shaking. Min-jun knelt in front of me, his hands covering mine. Breathe. You're safe. He killed someone. And no one knew. No one investigated. We will, Siwon promised, his voice hard as steel. If what you saw is true, it is. I felt his satisfaction, his complete lack of remorse. I looked up at them. He's going to come for me, isn't he? To silence me. He'll try, Min-jun said calmly. He won't succeed. You don't know that. Yes, I do. He stood, pulling me up with him. Because pack law works both ways. Article 47 says you're under your former pack's authority until you join another pack. His eyes met Siwon's. Another one of those silent conversations happening. So join ours. I blinked. What? Our pack, Siwon clarified. It's just the two of us since we left our father's pack. Small but legally recognized. If you join us, Hyun-woo loses all claim. You can't just, that's not how pack bonds work. It takes time, trials, acceptance rituals. For traditional packs, yes, Min-jun's thumb traced the silver pattern on my wrist. But soul marks override traditional requirements. The moon goddess already chose you. We're just making it official. This is insane. This is survival, Siwon corrected. You saw a murder. A murder committed by a pack alpha with connections and resources. If he thinks you're a threat, he'll eliminate you. Unless you're protected by a stronger pack, Min-jun finished. Which we are. Our family has enough influence to make Hyun-woo think twice. And if he doesn't think twice, then we remind him why people call us the most dangerous alphas in Seoul, Siwon said simply. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. You made a mistake, little Omega. See you soon. The lights in the penthouse flickered, then went out completely. That's not the building's power system, Min-jun said quietly, already moving toward the windows. Someone cut the main line. How many exits does this place have? I asked, proud that my voice only shook a little. 3. But if they cut the power, they probably have people watching all of them. Siwon pulled out his phone, cursed. No signal. They're jamming communications. So we're trapped. So we fight, Min-jun corrected, and I heard the shift in his voice, the alpha coming to the surface. How many do you think he sent? For 1 Omega? At least 6. Siwon moved to stand between me and the elevator. Maybe more if he knows what Jihoon can do. I can't do anything, I protested. I calmed you two by accident. I don't even know how I did it. Then you better figure it out fast, Min-jun said. Because company's coming. The emergency stairwell door exploded inward. 6 figures in tactical gear poured through, moving with the coordination of trained fighters, not pack enforcers. These were professionals. Han Jihoon, the lead one said, his voice distorted by a mask. You're coming with us. Hard pass, I said, backing toward the windows. That wasn't a request. They moved fast, but the twins moved faster. Min-jun intercepted 3 of them with a grace that was absolutely terrifying, while Siwon took the other three with brutal efficiency. The sound of breaking bones echoed through the penthouse. But more were coming. I could hear footsteps in the stairwell, voices coordinating. The silver mark on my wrist burned, and suddenly I understood. The visions weren't random. They were showing me what I needed to know. I reached out with that same instinct that had led me to the twins in the courtyard, and this time I pushed instead of pulled. The effect was immediate. Every alpha in the room, including the ones still in the stairwell, stumbled. Their aggression didn't disappear, but it redirected away from us and toward each other. Suddenly, the tactical team was fighting amongst themselves, confused and disoriented. "What did you do?" Minjun asked, breathing hard. "I have no idea." But the mark was glowing brighter, and I felt power thrumming through my veins like electricity. "But I think we should leave before I figure it out and accidentally kill someone." "Fire escape," Siwon decided. "Move." We ran. The fire escape was a rusted nightmare clinging to the side of the building like it was held together by prayers and spite. My fingers slipped on the wet metal as rain started to fall, because of course it did. Seoul's weather had impeccable timing for dramatics. "Keep moving," Siwon urged from behind me, his hand steadying my lower back as I navigated another slick ladder. Below us, 40 stories of empty air yawned like a hungry mouth. "I'm moving as fast as I can without dying," I shot back, my sneakers squeaking against metal. "Some of us aren't genetically engineered alpha superhumans. You just made 6 trained fighters attack each other with your mind," Minjun called from above, already 3 levels down, and somehow not slipping despite moving twice as fast. "Don't sell yourself short. I didn't do it with my mind. I have no idea what I did." My foot slipped, and my stomach dropped into my shoes before Siwon's arm locked around my waist, holding me against the ladder. "Careful. Thanks for the groundbreaking advice." But my heart was hammering, and not just from the near-death experience. His body was pressed against my back, solid and warm even through our clothes, and I could feel his heartbeat against my spine. Steady, controlled. Like holding me on a fire escape in the rain while being chased by mercenaries was just another Tuesday. Maybe for them it was. We hit the 23rd floor when I heard it. Footsteps above us, metal creaking under weight. "They're on the fire escape," I said. And wow. My voice was remarkably calm for someone whose life had turned into an action movie. "How many?" Minjun asked. I closed my eyes, reaching out with that weird new sense. It felt like stretching a muscle I'd never used, and the silver mark on my wrist pulsed warm. 4. No. 5. One of them is trying to be quiet, but he's heavier than the others, and the metal's groaning under his weight. Both twins looked at me. "What?" "You can sense them," Siwon said. "Not a question. Apparently I can sense a lot of things now. Like how you're both thinking about doing something stupid and heroic that involves staying behind to fight while I escape." Minjun's eyebrow rose. "Can you actually read our thoughts, or are you guessing?" "Little of both. Also, your plan is terrible and I'm not leaving you." "Jihoon." Siwon turned me to face him, rainwater dripping from his hair into his eyes. "If they catch you, what Hyunwoo did to Min Seok-jin will look merciful." "Good thing they're not going to catch me then." I pulled away, continuing down the ladder. "We stick together or I sit down right here and refuse to move. Your choice." I heard Minjun laugh, actually laugh, the sound almost lost in the rain. "He's stubborn." "He's smart," Siwon corrected. "Fine. Together. But when I say run, you run, understood?" "Sure. Right after you define run, because I'm pretty sure your version involves superhuman speed I don't possess." We made it down 3 more levels before the first shot rang out. The bullet pinged off metal 2 inches from my head, and I yelped, flattening myself against the building's wall. "They're shooting at us? What happened to taking me alive?" "Warning shot," Minjun said grimly. "Next one won't be." He was right. The next bullet shattered a window, 6 feet to my left, glass raining down like crystal tears. Okay, new plan. My brain was working overtime, fueled by adrenaline and apparently supernatural intuition. "There's a restaurant on the 15th floor. I can feel people inside. Lots of people." "How do you know that?" Siwon asked. "I don't know how I know. I just know. Trust me?" Another bullet. This one close enough that I felt the air pressure change as it passed. "15th floor," Minjun decided. Go. We moved faster, practically sliding down the wet ladder. My hands were numb from gripping cold metal, my clothes soaked through, and I was definitely going to have bruises tomorrow. If there was a tomorrow, the restaurant was one of those trendy places that served tiny portions on huge plates for astronomical prices. Through the windows, I could see well-dressed people eating and laughing, completely unaware that three soaking wet fugitives were about to crash their dinner service. Minjun got the window open with strength that should have been impossible. We tumbled through into blessed warmth, landing in a tangle of limbs that would have been funny if we weren't actively being hunted. The restaurant went silent. Every head turned to stare at us. Evening, I said brightly, climbing to my feet and trying to look like I broke into restaurants through windows all the time. Don't mind us, just passing through. A waiter approached, his professional smile firmly in place despite the obvious what the hell happening behind his eyes. I'm sorry, but this is a private establishment. You can't just... We're with the Choi party, Minjun said smoothly, already moving toward the main entrance like he owned the place, which I realized as I saw the subtle logo on the napkins he probably did. Mr. Choi? The waiter's eyes widened in recognition. I didn't realize you were dining with us tonight. Last-minute change of plans. We'll need a car brought around. Immediately. Of course, sir. Right away. As the waiter scurried off, I grabbed Minjun's arm. We can't stay here. Those guys are right behind us. I know. That's why we're not staying. He nodded toward the kitchen. Service entrance. Move casual. Don't run. Casual. Right. Because I look so casual, dripping rainwater all over their fancy carpet. You look fine, Siwon said, his hand finding my lower back again. Apparently that was going to be a thing now. Better than fine. I glanced at him, and he was looking at me with an intensity that made me forget how to breathe. His hair was plastered to his forehead, his expensive shirt clinging to muscles I really shouldn't be noticing right now, and his dark eyes were focused on me like I was the only person in the room. You're staring, I pointed out. You're worth staring at. We're literally running for our lives. Doesn't make it less true. Are you two done flirting? Minjun called from the kitchen entrance. Because I'd really like to not die tonight. We're not flirting, I protested, following him through swinging doors into a kitchen that smelled like garlic and expensive wine. You're definitely flirting, a chef said without looking up from his sauté pan. Also, Mr. Choi, your usual table is available next Tuesday if you want to make a reservation. Thanks, Chef Kim. I'll call ahead. We navigated through the kitchen like this was normal, like we weren't leaving a trail of water and potential gunmen, and honestly, the surrealness of it was keeping me from completely panicking. The service entrance opened into an alley. Rain poured down in sheets, turning the narrow space into a small river. A sleek black car idled at the far end, exhaust puffing white in the cold air. That was fast, I observed. I texted while we were walking through the kitchen, Minjun said. Backup plan? You have a backup plan for your backup plan? I have 12 backup plans. This is number 7. We splashed through the alley toward the car. I was about to feel relieved when my new weird sense started screaming. Wait. I grabbed both of them, yanking them backward just as a van screeched around the corner, blocking our path to the car. Doors slid open. More tactical gear. More masks. Seriously, I threw my hands up. How many people did Hyunwoo hire? More than we can fight, Siwon said grimly. Not without. He didn't finish because that's when I felt it. The pull in my chest that had led me to them in the first place. It was stronger now, urgent, like something inside me recognized them and refused to let them be hurt. The silver mark flared hot. Jihoon, your wrist, Minjun said. I looked down. The pattern was glowing so bright I could see it through my soaked jacket sleeve, and I could feel it. The power humming under my skin like electricity looking for ground. Whatever you're going to do, Siwon said as the tactical team advanced. Do it now. I didn't think. I just reached out, grabbed both their hands, and pushed. Not at them. Through them, the world exploded with silver light. It poured from my hands into theirs, and I felt their wolves rise. Not the feral, uncontrolled rage from before. This was different. Focused. Powerful. Absolutely devastating. Minjun moved first. 1 second he was human, the next he was mid-shift, his body flowing between forms with a grace that stole my breath. His wolf was massive, black as midnight with eyes that glowed the same silver as my mark. Siwon followed, his shift even faster. His wolf was slightly larger, darker, with the same silver eyes that fixed on the tactical team with predatory focus. Together, they were terrifying. The tactical team clearly agreed because half of them turned and ran. The other half lasted about 30 seconds before joining them. I stood in the rain, watching two of the most powerful alphas in Seoul circle back to me in their wolf forms, and felt the power connection between us thrumming like a live wire. That was new, I said faintly. Minjun shifted back first, his human form emerging with the same fluid grace. He was breathing hard, eyes still glowing faintly. What did you do? I have no idea. I just felt your wolves and thought they should be free, and apparently my opinion on the matter carried some weight. Some weight? Siwon shifted back, shaking water from his hair. Jihoon, you controlled our shifts. That's not possible. Add it to the growing list of impossible things I've done today. My legs decided they were done holding me up and I sat down right there in the alley, rain and all. I'm getting really tired of surprises. Both of them knelt beside me, Minjun tilting my face up with gentle fingers. Your eyes are silver. What? Look. He pulled out his phone, switching to camera mode. He was right. My normally dark brown eyes were glowing the same silver as the mark on my wrist. As I watched, the glow faded slowly back to normal brown. Okay, I said carefully. So I'm glowing now. Great. Love that for me. You're incredible, Siwon said softly. I'm a freak. You're ours. Minjun helped me to my feet, and we need to move before they regroup. The black car had waited, the driver apparently unbothered by the supernatural light show or the tactical team. We piled into the back seat, and I finally let myself feel how exhausted I was. Where are we going? I asked, leaning my head against the cool window. Somewhere safe, Minjun said. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. I closed my eyes, feeling the steady vibration of the car beneath us. The twins sat on either side of me, close enough that I could feel their warmth, and despite everything, I felt safe, which was probably stupid. We were being hunted by my psychotic former pack alpha. I just discovered I had freaky mind powers, and I was sitting between two alphas who'd been strangers 6 hours ago. But their heartbeats were steady, and my mark had stopped burning, and for the first time in 23 years, I didn't feel alone. Jihoon, Siwon said quietly. Thank you for what you did back there. Which part? The mind control or the force shifting? For choosing to stay with us instead of running. I opened my eyes, looking at him. His face was serious, raindrops still clinging to his lashes. I told you, I don't run. Most people would. I'm not most people. I glanced at Minjun, who was watching us with an unreadable expression. Besides, you promised me food. I'm not leaving before I get fed properly. Minjun's mouth curved. We'll feed you. And then, Siwon said, his hand finding mine in the dark space between us. We figure this out together. The car turned onto a quiet street lined with traditional Hanok houses. We pulled up to one that was larger than the others, with a wall that suggested privacy and security. Safe house, Minjun explained, helping me out of the car. No one knows about this place except us and a few trusted people. How many backup plans did you say you have? 12. What number is this? 9. Should I be worried about what 10 through 12 involve? Probably. The house was beautiful inside, all traditional architecture mixed with modern amenities. Someone had laid out fresh clothes in the bathroom, and I took the longest, hottest shower of my life while trying to process everything that had happened. When I emerged in borrowed clothes that were way too big, I found both twins in the kitchen. They'd changed too, and seeing them in casual clothes, relaxed and domestic, did strange things to my heart. Sit, Minjun ordered, pointing to the table where he'd laid out enough food for 6 people. This is too much. This is barely enough. Eat. I ate. And it was the best meal I'd had in years, possibly ever. Minjun cooked like he did everything else, with focused intensity and unexpected gentleness. Halfway through my 3rd helping, my phone buzzed. I'd almost forgotten I still had it. Another text from Hyun Woo. Clever. using the Choi twins as protection. But they can't watch you forever. And when they slip, I'll be waiting. You should have died quiet like Seokjin. Now you'll die screaming. My hands shook. Siwon took the phone, read the message, and his expression went cold. He's threatening you. He's been threatening me since I was 15. I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be used to it, Minjun said quietly. No one should live like that. Yeah, well, welcome to life as a rejected Omega. Former rejected Omega, Siwon corrected. You're pack now. Our pack. I didn't agree to that. Your mark did. He gestured to my wrist where the silver pattern pulsed softly. The moment we shifted together, the moment you channeled power through us, the bond formed. We're connected now. Without my consent? The moon goddess doesn't ask permission, Minjun said. She just knows. I should have been angry. Should have felt violated. But looking at them, at the way they watched me, with protective intensity mixed with something softer, I couldn't find it in myself to care. Fine, I said. But I have conditions. Name them, they said in unison. 1. You don't make decisions for me. Ever. 2. We figure out how to stop Hyun-woo before he kills someone else. 3. Someone explains what the hell I am, because Omega, with weird powers, is not a sufficient answer. Deal, Minjun agreed. And I can help with number 3. How? He pulled out an old leather-bound book from a cabinet. This is my family's history, pack records going back 200 years. The book looked older than that. The leather was cracked and soft with age, and when Minjun set it on the table between us, I caught the faint scent of old paper and something else. Something that made the mark on my wrist tingle with recognition. Your family kept records of rejected Omegas? I asked, reaching for another dumpling, because stress eating was a valid coping mechanism. Not just rejected Omegas. He opened the book carefully, pages crackling, records of anyone who manifested unusual abilities. Seers, healers, empaths. He flipped through yellowed pages covered in neat handwriting. And about 60 years ago, someone like you. I nearly choked on my dumpling. Someone like me, how? Siwon moved closer, reading over his brother's shoulder. There. He pointed to a faded photograph paperclipped to a page. The image showed a young man, maybe early 20s, with eyes that even in black and white seemed to glow with an otherworldly light. He stood between two alphas, and the way they looked at him made my chest ache with familiarity. Lee Taemin, Minjun read, rejected by the Gwangju Pack at age 16 for failure to present proper Omega characteristics. Specifically, he couldn't shift, showed no interest in traditional Omega roles, and claimed he could feel other people's emotions. That sounds familiar, I muttered. It gets better, or worse, depending on perspective. Minjun continued reading. After rejection, he survived alone for 3 years, until he encountered 2 alpha twins during a territorial dispute. The twins were in full rage, had killed 4 pack members already, and were about to kill each other when Taemin intervened. My skin prickled. Let me guess. He touched them, and everything stopped. He did more than that. According to this, he bonded with both twins simultaneously, something that shouldn't be possible. The bond manifested as silver marks on all 3 of them. Minjun's finger traced the words. They called him Yunbit, silver light. Creative, I said, because sarcasm was easier than dealing with the implications. What happened to him? Siwon's expression darkened. Keep reading, Hyung. Minjun's jaw tightened. His former pack alpha found out about his abilities. Tried to force him to return, claiming he was pack property. When Taemin refused, the alpha hired mercenaries to take him by force. He paused. During the fight, Taemin's power manifested fully. He didn't just calm the mercenaries, he stopped their hearts. The temperature in the room dropped. He killed them? With his mind? With his gift? The entry says his emotions were too strong, the protective instinct too fierce. When the mercenaries threatened his bonded alphas, his power lashed out. Minjun met my eyes. 12 men died instantly, and Taemin died 3 days later. How? The power burned him out from the inside. Using it to kill instead of heal created a feedback loop that his body couldn't handle. He closed the book gently. His last words were recorded by one of the twins. The silver is meant for life, not death. I broke the balance. I sat back, my appetite gone. So you're telling me I'm some kind of walking weapon that might accidentally kill people if I get too emotional, and if I do, I'll die for it? We're telling you that you're not the first, Siwon corrected, and that your power has limits, boundaries you need to understand. Great, fantastic, love that journey for me. I stood up, needing to move. Anything else in that fun little book? Any other cautionary tales about people like me who ended tragically? Actually, yes. Minjun flipped to another section. There's a mention of someone called Dalbit. Moonlight. She lived over a century ago. Also rejected, also manifested silver marks, also bonded with twin alphas. Let me guess. Also died horribly? No. He turned the book so I could see. She lived to be 97, had 4 children. Her bonded alphas both died of old age within days of each other, and she followed a week later, peacefully, surrounded by family. I stared at the page. At the sketch of an elderly woman with kind eyes and silver hair, her wrists adorned with the same marks that now decorated mine. What was different? Why did she survive when Taemin didn't? According to this, she understood the balance. The silver gift can calm or it can kill, but it requires equilibrium. She only used it defensively, never offensively. She healed instead of harmed. Minjun's finger traced the text, and she maintained the bond with her alphas constantly. Drew strength from them, gave strength back. A circuit, not a one-way channel. So I need to not murder people with my brain, maintain mysterious balance, and somehow keep a constant connection with you too? I laughed, but it came out slightly hysterical. No pressure. Jihoon. Siwon was suddenly in front of me, his hands cupping my face. Breathe. I am breathing. You're panicking. I'm efficiently processing life-threatening information. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. You're spiraling. I can feel it. That stopped me. You can feel it? Since the bond formed, yes. Not thoughts exactly, but emotions. Yours are very loud right now. I looked at Minjun. You too? You're scared, overwhelmed. And underneath all that, you're angry. He tilted his head. Angry at your former pack for making you think you were broken. Angry at yourself for believing them. And angry at us for dumping all this on you at once. I'm not angry at you, I protested. Liar. But he said it gently. It's okay to be angry. You have every right. I don't have time to be angry. I have a psychotic pack alpha trying to kill me, mysterious powers I don't understand, and apparently I'm bonded to 2 alphas I met 6 hours ago. I pulled away from Siwon, needing space. This is insane. All of this is insane. The mark on my wrist flared hot, and suddenly, I was somewhere else. Not a memory this time. A vision. Future, not past. Hyunwoo standing over a body. Not mine. Siwon's. Blood pooling on expensive marble. Minjun screaming. Rage taking over, and then more blood. So much blood. I gasped, slamming back into the present. Both twins were holding me, keeping me upright. What did you see? Minjun demanded. Death. My voice shook. Hyunwoo kills Siwon. And then you lose control and kill everyone, including yourself. Siwon's hands tightened on my arms. When? I don't know. The marble looked like your penthouse, but I couldn't see when. I looked up at him. We can't go back there. Ever. We won't, he promised. But my clothes are there, my phone charger, my very judgmental cat, who's probably already plotting my murder for missing dinner. Despite everything, Minjun laughed. You have a cat? Yes. And she's a menace who will absolutely destroy my security deposit if I don't feed her soon. We'll send someone to get her, Siwon said. And your things. You can't just send someone into a potential death trap for my cat. Watch us. Minjun pulled out his phone, already texting. What's your address? I told him, then immediately regretted it. If your person gets killed by Hyunwoo or my cat, I'm not responsible. Our person is former special forces and has survived much worse than one Omega's pet. You clearly haven't met Chairman Meow. They both stared at me. You named your cat Chairman Meow? She's very authoritative. It fits. Siwon's mouth twitched. You're ridiculous. You're the one sending special forces after a cat. We're sending special forces to retrieve our Omega's belongings and companion, Minjun corrected. There's a difference. Our Omega. The words shouldn't have affected me, but they did. They settled somewhere in my chest, warm and terrifying. I didn't agree to be your omega, I pointed out. The moon goddess disagrees. Siwon held up my wrist where the silver marks pulsed softly. But if you want to reject the bond, we won't stop you. I opened my mouth, ready to say yes, absolutely, reject it, get me out of this supernatural nonsense. But the words wouldn't come, because the truth was, standing here between them, I felt more whole than I ever had in my life. Like pieces I didn't know were missing had suddenly clicked into place. I hate you both a little bit right now, I said instead. That's fair, Minjun agreed. We're rather hateable. My phone buzzed. Another text from Hyunwoo. I know where you are, little Omega. The Choi family safe house on Bukchon Road. Did you really think you could hide from me? Ice flooded my veins. He knows we're here. Siwon took my phone, read the message, and smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Good. Good? How is that good? Because we're not actually at the safe house on Bukchon Road. He showed me the location settings on his phone. We're at the safe house on Samcheong Road. This place isn't in any official records. Then how does he know about Bukchon? Because we let him know. Minjun's smile matched his brother's. We leaked that location 2 hours ago through 3 different channels. If he's watching it, he's watching an empty building rigged with cameras. I blinked. You set a trap. We set 12 traps. That's just the first one. Siwon's hand found my lower back again. Backup plan number 10. Let the enemy think they're hunting you while you hunt them. That's actually kind of brilliant. We have our moments. My stomach chose that moment to remind me that, despite the meal, I'd been running on empty for too long. The room tilted slightly. Okay, new priority, Minjun said, catching my elbow. You need sleep. I need answers. You need sleep? Then answers. He guided me toward a door I hadn't noticed. This is the guest room. Private bathroom, locks on the inside, windows are bulletproof, and the bed is ridiculously comfortable. The room was simple but beautiful. All clean lines and soft lighting. The bed did look ridiculously comfortable. You'll be right next door? I hated how small my voice sounded. 2 doors down, Siwon corrected. But if you need us, just call. We'll hear you. Because of the bond? Because we're listening. He squeezed my hand. Try to rest. Tomorrow we deal with Hyunwoo. They left, and I stood in the middle of the room, trying to process everything. 6 hours ago, I was delivering herbs. Now I was bonded to twin alphas, hunted by my former pack, and apparently capable of stopping hearts with my mind. I looked down at my wrist where the silver marks glowed softly in the dim light. They were beautiful in a strange way, delicate lines that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. What am I? I whispered to the empty room. The marks flared brighter, and for just a second, I could have sworn I heard a voice. Not words exactly, but a feeling. Comfort, acceptance, unbit, silver light. I changed into the sleep clothes someone had left on the bed and crawled under covers that smelled like fresh laundry and something else. Something that reminded me of the twins. I should have been terrified, should have been planning my escape. Instead, I felt the bond humming quietly in my chest, connecting me to the 2 alphas sleeping 2 doors down. I could feel their presence, steady and protective, and for the first time in years, I let myself relax. Sleep came easier than expected, but with it came dreams. Not visions this time, memories, but not mine. I saw through Minjun's eyes. A younger version, maybe 10 years old, watching his father pit him against Siwon in a fighting ring, feeling the shame of winning, the worst shame of his brother's hurt expression. Then Siwon's memories. Same age, different perspective. The determination to be good enough, strong enough to make their father proud. The crushing realization that nothing would ever be enough. Years of competition. Years of being forced apart even as their twin bonds screamed to be together. And then, recent. 3 days ago, the merger meeting. Minjun watching the CEO manipulate Siwon, seeing his brother being used, and making a split-second decision to destroy the deal. To protect him, even if it meant Siwon would hate him. Siwon's rage. Not at the lost deal, but at being protected. At being seen as weak. At Minjun always. Always making decisions without consulting him. The fight, the shift, the rage feeding on itself until they couldn't stop, until me. I woke gasping, my face wet with tears that weren't mine. The bond pulsed frantically, and I realized they were awake too, had felt me in their dreams the same way I'd felt them. My door opened. Both of them stood there in sleep pants and nothing else, looking concerned and dangerous and completely unfair. "We felt you," Siwon said. "I saw you, your memories, the fighting ring, your father." I wiped my face. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude." "You didn't intrude," Minjun said quietly. "The bond works both ways. If you saw our past, we saw yours too." My blood ran cold. "What did you see?" "Your rejection ceremony, in detail." Siwon's voice was carefully controlled. "How Hyun-woo carved the mark himself. How your pack watched and did nothing. And before that," Minjun added, "years of them calling you broken, defective, making you sleep in the cold room, feeding you last." I looked away, shame burning through me. "Don't," Siwon said, suddenly beside the bed. "Don't you dare feel ashamed. I'm not. You are. I can feel it through the bond." He cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "What they did to you was abuse. Criminal abuse. And feeling ashamed of surviving it is exactly what they wanted. I should have been stronger. You were a child," Minjun said from my other side. When had he moved? "A child who survived years of systemic cruelty and came out kind. That's not weakness. That's steel wrapped in silk." "That's a weird metaphor." "It's accurate." Siwon's thumb brushed my cheekbone, wiping away a tear I didn't know had fallen. "You're the strongest person we've ever met. I deliver herbs for a living and name my cat Chairman Meow. I'm not that impressive. You walked into a courtyard with two feral alphas because you thought you could help," Minjun countered. "You fought off mercenaries. You're fighting sleep right now because you're terrified of what else the bond might show you." He was right. I was terrified. "I don't want to see more. I don't want you to see more of mine." "Then we stay," Siwon said simply. "What?" "We stay. Here. With you." He gestured to the massive bed. "The bond is new, raw. It'll settle eventually, but tonight, proximity will help. We can anchor each other." "You want to sleep in my bed?" "We want to make sure you actually sleep," Minjun corrected. "No expectations, no pressure, just presence." I should have said no. Should have maintained boundaries. But I was exhausted and terrified, and the bond was practically vibrating with need. "Fine. But if either of you snores, I'm kicking you out. Deal." They climbed in on either side of me, careful not to crowd, but close enough that I could feel their warmth. The bond immediately calmed, the frantic pulsing settling into something steady. "Better?" Siwon asked. Annoyingly, "Yes." I closed my eyes. "This is weird." "This is survival," Minjun said. "Sleep, Jihoon. We'll keep the nightmares away." And somehow, impossibly, I believed them. Sleep didn't come gently. It dragged me under like a riptide, pulling me into darkness that felt less like rest and more like drowning. The bond hummed between us, a silver thread connecting three hearts. And in that space between waking and dreaming, I felt everything. Minjun's guilt, heavy and sharp-edged, years of making choices for his brother because love looked like control in his father's house. Siwon's resentment, not hatred, never that, but the suffocating weight of being protected when all he wanted was to stand equal. And underneath both, woven through every breath, was love so fierce it hurt. I surfaced from the dream state slowly, awareness returning in pieces, warmth on my left, solid presence on my right, the steady rhythm of breathing that wasn't mine. For a heartbeat, I forgot where I was, forgot everything except the feeling of being held. Then reality crashed back. I was sandwiched between two alphas I'd known for less than a day, bonded by forces I didn't understand, hunted by a psychopath who'd murdered at least one person I knew of. My life had become a badly written drama, except the fear was real, and my cat was probably eating my houseplants out of spite. "You're thinking too loud," Minjun mumbled against my hair. His arm was draped over my waist, hand resting on my hip with casual possession that should have annoyed me but didn't. "It's 4 in the morning. How can I be thinking too loud?" "The bond," Siwon's voice came from my other side, rough with sleep. "Your anxiety is like an alarm clock. Sorry for my anxiety being inconvenient for you." Didn't say inconvenient. His hand found mine under the covers, fingers threading through. Just loud. I tried to pull away, needing space to think, but both of them tightened their hold. Not painfully, just enough to keep me anchored between them. Let me up. No, they said in unison again. This is kidnapping. This is preventing you from spiraling, Minjun corrected. I can feel you planning something stupid. I don't plan stupid things. You plan brave things that look stupid to people who care about your survival. Siwon's thumb traced circles on my palm. What were you thinking? I hesitated, but the bond made lying pointless. They'd feel the deception. I was thinking that Hyunwoo won't stop. He can't. I saw what he did to Seokjin, and that was just because Seokjin was weak. I'm not weak anymore. I'm evidence of his crime and a threat to his power. I took a breath. So I was thinking maybe I should leave, disappear. If I'm gone, he has no reason to come after you. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. No. Minjun's voice was flat. Final. You don't get to decide that. Neither do you. Not anymore. He propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. The bond isn't just about feelings, Jihoon. It's literal. Physical. If you disappear, if you try to break it, it'll kill all three of us. That's not true. Dalbert lived to 97. After her alphas died naturally, yes. But forced severance? He shook his head. The records are clear. Every attempt to break a silver bond before its natural end resulted in death within days. Painful death. He's not exaggerating, Siwon added quietly. There's a reason soul bonds are sacred. The moon goddess doesn't do things halfway. I wanted to argue, but the mark on my wrist pulsed hot, almost like a warning. So what? I'm just stuck with you forever because some cosmic force decided we go together? Would that be so terrible? Siwon's question was soft, almost vulnerable. Yes, I wanted to say. Because I don't know you. Because this is too fast, too intense, too much. But the bond hummed with truth I couldn't deny. In the space of hours, these two had become essential. Not because of magic or destiny, but because they'd seen the worst parts of me, the broken and rejected parts, and hadn't flinched. I don't know how to do this, I admitted. I've been alone for 8 years. I don't know how to be part of something. Neither do we, Minjun said. Our father spent 28 years teaching us that closeness was weakness, that needing anyone made you vulnerable. His hand tightened on my hip. We're learning too. Great. So we're all disasters figuring this out together. Exactly. Siwon smiled, and it transformed his face from dangerously beautiful to something softer. Disasters in training. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, shattering the moment. All three of us tensed. It's 5 a.m., I said. Who texts at 5 a.m. except serial killers and my grandmother? Minjun reached over me, grabbing the phone. His expression darkened as he read the screen. What? I tried to see, but he held it out of reach. It's not Hyunwoo. Then who? Your former pack. He handed me the phone, his jaw tight. The message was from a number I recognized. Lee Eunji, one of the few pack members who'd been almost kind to me. Almost. Jihoon, I know you probably hate all of us, and you have every right, but you need to know. Hyunwoo is claiming you kidnapped yourself. He filed a report saying you're mentally unstable, and the Choi twins are manipulating you. He has half the council convinced. They're voting tomorrow on whether to authorize a forced retrieval. My stomach dropped. He's making me the villain. Of course he is. Siwon sat up fully, running a hand through his disheveled hair. He can't admit he's hunting you illegally, so he's flipping the narrative. Will it work? I asked. Can the council actually authorize taking me by force? If they believe you're being held against your will or mentally compromised. Yes. Minjun was already out of bed, pacing. Pack law gives them authority to rescue Omegas in danger. But I'm not in danger. Well, not from you. Doesn't matter. Hyunwoo controls 3 of the 5 council votes. If he convinces them you're a victim, they'll send enforcers. He stopped pacing, looking at his brother. We need to move faster. Move faster on what? Exposing him, Siwon said. You saw his memory of killing Min Seokjin. That's evidence. That's my word against his. A rejected Omega versus a pack alpha. Who do you think they'll believe? They'll believe proof, Minjun pulled out his laptop, fingers already flying over the keys. Seokjin's death was ruled a suicide. But if we can find inconsistencies, evidence that contradicts the official story, your vision becomes corroboration instead of accusation. You think there's evidence? After all these years? There's always evidence. People just have to look. He glanced at me. What else did you see in the memory? Details. Anything that stood out. I closed my eyes, pulling up the vision. It was in a parking garage. Underground. There was a sign on the wall, something about resident parking only. And Seokjin's car was blue. Dark blue. Almost black. Hyundai, I think. Good. What else? Hyunwoo was wearing a ring. Gold, with a red stone. It left a mark on Seokjin's throat when I couldn't finish. A signet ring, Siwon said. Pack alphas wear them. If Seokjin had bruising in the shape of a ring, and the death was ruled suicide by drowning, that's a red flag. The autopsy would show it, Minjun agreed, still typing. If we can get access to the records. How are you going to get sealed autopsy records? He smiled, and it was sharp enough to cut. We're the Choi twins. We have access to things that would make your former pack very nervous. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Unji. He's also saying you have a rare omega disorder that makes you susceptible to alpha manipulation. He has a doctor ready to testify. Jihoon, he's building a case. If you come back voluntarily, I think I can convince some of the council members to hear your side. But if they vote tomorrow and you're not here, he's boxing me in, I said quietly. If I don't show up, I look guilty. If I do show up, he can have me declared incompetent and locked up for my own protection. You're not going, both twins said simultaneously. I have to. No. Minjun closed his laptop with a sharp click. You walk into that council meeting, and we'll never see you again. Hyunwoo will make sure of it. So what's the alternative? Hide forever? Let him control the narrative while I cower in a safe house? The alternative, Siwon said, his voice taking on that edge of command that made it clear why people called him dangerous, is we go to the council together, as your bonded alphas, with evidence of Hyunwoo's crimes, and we make them choose between a murderer and justice. That's a terrible plan. You have a better one? I didn't. What if the evidence isn't enough? What if they don't believe us? Then we make them believe, Minjun said. Your gift shows you truth. What if you could show them? Make the council see what you saw? I don't know how to do that. I barely know how this power works at all. Then we figure it out. He crossed back to the bed, kneeling in front of me. Together. Like we've been doing everything else. The mark on my wrist flared warm, and I felt it again. That pull. That connection that said these two were mine, and I was theirs. And together we were stronger than apart. Okay, I said. But if this goes sideways and we all die, I'm haunting both of you. Fair enough. Siwon helped me out of bed. We have 14 hours until the council vote. Let's make them count. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Minjun worked his contacts, pulling strings I didn't know existed. Siwon made calls that sounded more like threats wrapped in business courtesy. And I sat in the middle of it all, trying to understand the power that hummed under my skin. The old book lay open in front of me. Dalbot's story written in faded ink. She'd learned to control her gift through meditation and focus, channeling the silver light with intention instead of emotion. The key she'd written is understanding that the light responds to love, not fear. Show it what you want to protect, and it will rise. Show it what you fear, and it will consume you. Easier said than done, I muttered, staring at my glowing wrist. Talking to yourself? Siwon appeared with coffee that smelled like heaven. Talking to a dead woman who apparently had her life figured out better than I do. She had decades to learn. You've had hours. He sat beside me, close enough that our thighs touched. Give yourself some credit. I made armed mercenaries attack each other. That's not control. That's chaos. That was instinct. Protective instinct. His hand covered mine. You saw us in danger and reacted. The power followed your intent. My intent was, don't let them die. Not make them murder each other. Close enough for a first try. I looked at him. Really looked. There were shadows under his eyes, tension in his jaw. You're worried. I'm terrified, he admitted. Not of the council or Hyunwoo, of losing you. You barely know me. I know enough. His thumb traced the silver marks on my wrist. I know you're brave and kind and you make jokes when you're scared. I know you named your cat Chairman Meow and you haven't eaten properly in months. I know you saved us when no one else could. He met my eyes. And I know that if something happens to you, it'll break something in me that can't be fixed. The bond pulsed between us, warm and steady, and I felt the truth of his words in my bones. Don't, I said, but it came out soft. Don't make me care about you. Too late. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my lips. I felt you caring 3 hours ago when you woke up terrified and your first thought was protecting us. That was the bond. That was you. Closer still. The bond just made it louder. I should have pulled back, should have maintained distance. But I was tired of should, tired of being alone, tired of pretending I didn't feel the pull between us. So I kissed him. It started soft, almost tentative, like we were both afraid of breaking something precious. Then his hand cupped my jaw, and suddenly there was nothing tentative about it. He kissed like he fought, with focused intensity and devastating precision, and I forgot how to breathe. The mark on my wrist flared bright, silver light spilling between us, and I felt the bond snap tighter. Not uncomfortable, but present, undeniable. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, Minjun was watching from the doorway with an expression I couldn't read. Don't stop on my account, he said mildly. We weren't, Siwon replied, not looking away from me. Good, because we have company. That got our attention. What kind of company? The kind that's currently cutting through our perimeter fence. Minjun's phone showed security footage of 4 figures in tactical gear. Hyunwoo's not waiting for the council vote. I stood, the warm fuzz from the kiss evaporating into cold reality. How did he find us? He didn't. He's hitting all our known locations simultaneously. Another screen showed the Bookshan house under siege. He's hoping to get lucky. How many locations does he have to hit before he gets here? 3. Minjun's smile was cold. Which gives us about 30 minutes. 30 minutes to do what? To set a trap of our own. He pulled up a map on his laptop. There's an old pack meeting ground about 10 minutes from here. Neutral territory. Sacred ground where violence is forbidden by old law. Except Hyunwoo doesn't care about old law, I pointed out. No, but the council does. If we can get him there, make him break sacred law in front of witnesses, the council won't be able to ignore it. You want to use me as bait. I want to end this, Minjun corrected. Tonight, before the council votes, before more people get hurt. Siwon's hand found mine. We won't let anything happen to you. You can't promise that. Watch us. The mark on my wrist pulsed, and I felt it again. The future trying to show me something. I closed my eyes, letting the vision come. The meeting ground. Old stone and ancient trees. Hyunwoo arriving with his enforcers. The council watching from the shadows. And blood. So much blood. But whose? I couldn't tell before the vision shattered. Jihoon? Minjun's voice pulled me back. What did you see? Blood, I whispered. But I don't know if it's ours or his. Then we make sure it's his, Siwon said simply. Outside, the sound of breaking glass echoed through the quiet house. Too late for plans, Minjun said. They're here. The silver marks on my wrist blazed bright, and I felt the power rising. Not chaotic this time, focused. Then let's give them what they came for, I said, and hoped I wasn't about to get us all killed. The sound of footsteps echoed through the house, deliberate and unhurried. Whoever had broken in wasn't trying to be subtle anymore. They wanted us to know they were coming. Back door, Minjun said quietly, already moving. We can make it to the car if we move now. Or, I said, the power humming under my skin making me bold or stupid or both. We stopped running. Both twins looked at me like I'd suggested we all strip naked and dance in the street. Absolutely not, Siwon said. Think about it. Hyunwoo wants me scared, wants me running. That's when people make mistakes. The silver marks pulsed brighter, and I could feel something building. Not the chaotic surge from before, but something more deliberate. What if instead of running, we control where this happens? The sacred ground, Minjun said slowly, understanding dawning. You want to lead them there. I want to end this on our terms, not his. I looked between them. You said violence is forbidden on sacred ground. If Hyunwoo breaks that law in front of witnesses, the council can't protect him. And if there are no witnesses, Siwon challenged. If he kills us all before anyone arrives, then we make sure someone arrives. I pulled out my phone, finding Yoonji's number. She said she wanted to help. Let's give her the chance. The footsteps were getting closer. We had maybe 2 minutes before they found us. I hit dial. Yoonji answered on the second ring, her voice hushed. Jihoon? Where are you? Hyunwoo is losing his mind. He's sent teams to every Choi property. He's going to kill you if he finds you. I know. That's why I need your help. I took a breath. How fast can you get council members to the old meeting ground on Inwangsan? Silence. Then, that's sacred ground. No one's used it in decades. Why would you? She stopped. You're going to confront him there. I'm going to give the council a choice. Him or me. But I need witnesses. Jihoon, this is insane. This is ending it. Can you do it or not? Another pause. I could almost hear her weighing loyalty against conscience. I can get 3 council members there in 20 minutes. Maybe 4 if Elder Song answers his phone. 20 minutes. We'll be there. I hung up before she could argue. That was either brilliant or suicidal, Minjun observed. Can it be both? The door to the room exploded inward. 2 enforcers in tactical gear, weapons raised. Not guns, I noticed. Tranquilizer rifles. They wanted me alive. Good to know I had some value as a breathing person. Han Jihoon, the lead enforcer said, his voice muffled by his mask. Alpha Hyunwoo requests your presence. Come quietly and no one gets hurt. Requests? I stepped forward, putting myself between the twins and the weapons. The marks on my wrist blazed so bright the enforcers actually flinched. That's a funny way to say, is illegally attempting to kidnap. You're pack property until the council rules otherwise. I'm not property. I'm a person who's about to make your life very difficult if you don't lower those weapons. The enforcer laughed. You in what army, little Omega? I smiled, and even I could feel it wasn't nice. This one. I reached back, grabbing both twins' hands, and pushed. The power flowed through me into them. Controlled, this time. Deliberate. I felt their wolves rise, felt the shift begin, but I held it back. Just enough to let their alpha presence fill the room like a physical force. The temperature dropped. The air itself seemed to thicken. Both enforcers stumbled back, their weapons clattering to the floor as their own wolves instinctively submitted to the overwhelming dominance radiating from the twins. Here's what's going to happen, I said conversationally, still holding that thread of power. You're going to tell Hyunwoo that if he wants me, he can come get me himself. At the sacred ground on Inwangsan. 1 hour. He shows up alone, or I go to the council with everything I know about Min Sok-jin. The lead enforcer's head snapped up at the name. You're lying. You can't know about how Hyunwoo strangled him in an underground parking garage, how he wore his signet ring that left marks on Sok-jin's throat, how the death was ruled suicide even though the bruising pattern was wrong. I tilted my head. Want me to keep going? You have no proof. I have my word and a soul bond that lets me see truth. Which do you think the council will find more compelling? Especially when we request Sok-jin's body be exhumed for re-examination? The enforcer's hand moved toward his radio. Alpha Hyunwoo needs to know. Yes, he does. I released the twins' hands, and the oppressive power in the room eased. The enforcers could breathe again. Tell him. Sacred ground. 1 hour. Come alone, or I start talking to people who'll actually listen. They ran. Actually turned and ran like the hounds of hell were chasing them. That, Siwon said into the silence they left behind, was terrifying and impressive in equal measure. I can't believe that worked. My hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. I was totally bluffing about the body exhumation thing. I have no idea if that's even possible. It is, Minjun said, already gathering supplies into a bag. And we'll request it if we survive the next hour. You're really selling this plan. I'm being realistic. Hyunwoo won't come alone, sacred ground or not. He'll bring his most loyal enforcers, and he'll try to kill us before the council arrives. He handed me a jacket. We need to be ready. Ready how? I barely know how to use this power. I can't. Jihoon. Siwon cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. You just made 2 trained enforcers run with nothing but your will and our bond. You're stronger than you think. Or, I'm delusional and we're all about to die horribly. Could be both. Minjun agreed cheerfully. But we're dying together, so that's something. You two have a very strange relationship with mortality. You should see us at funerals. We're delightful. Despite everything, I laughed. It came out slightly hysterical, but it was real. We're insane, all three of us. Probably, Siwon said, pressing a quick kiss to my forehead. But we're insane together. Now let's go prove a murderer is exactly that. The drive to Inwangsan took 15 minutes through Seoul's pre-dawn streets. The old meeting ground was hidden in the forest above the city, accessible only by a narrow dirt road that wound through trees older than the city itself. Sacred ground, where pack law was absolute and violence was forbidden under penalty of death. Of course, that only mattered if people still believed in the old ways. We parked at the base of the trail. The walk-up would take another 10 minutes, which left us with 35 minutes before council members started arriving, if they arrived at all. What if Unji couldn't convince them? I asked as we started climbing. Then we document everything and hope we survive long enough to use it as evidence, Minjin said. His phone was already recording, camera pointed at the ground but audio catching everything. That's a terrible backup plan. All my backup plans are terrible. They just usually work anyway. The forest was dark, the canopy blocking out what little pre-dawn light existed. Our footsteps crunched on fallen leaves, and somewhere in the distance, I heard water running. A stream, maybe, or just the mountain breathing. The sacred ground appeared suddenly, a clearing ringed by stones so old they'd worn smooth. In the center stood a single flat rock, waist-high, carved with symbols I couldn't read but felt in my bones. This was a place of power. Old power that predated pacts and politics. The altar stone, Siwon said quietly. Where bonds were made and broken in the old days. Cheerful thought. I approached it cautiously, the silver marks on my wrist pulsing in rhythm with something I couldn't name. When my fingers touched the stone, warmth spread through my hand. The stone recognized me. Or my marks. Or something. Jihoon? Minjun's voice held a warning note. I turned to find we had company. Hyunwoo stood at the edge of the clearing with 6 enforcers, all armed. So much for coming alone. He looked exactly as I remembered, tall and imposing with cold eyes that assessed everything as either useful or disposable. I'd spent 8 years in the disposable category. Little Jihoon, he said, his voice carrying across the clearing. You've been busy. I've been surviving. There's a difference. Surviving by spreading lies about me? By manipulating these alphas with your broken omega tricks? He stepped closer, his enforcers moving with him. The council will see through your performance. They'll see you for what you are. Defective, mentally unstable, a danger to yourself and others. Funny. I was going to say the same thing about you. I stayed by the altar stone, drawing strength from its warmth. How's Min Seok-jin, by the way? Oh, wait. He's dead. Because you killed him. Hyunwoo's expression didn't change, but I felt his rage spike. Careful, boy. Accusations without proof are just fantasy. I have proof. I have the truth that you carved into his throat with your ring. The same ring you're wearing right now. His hand moved unconsciously to the gold signet on his finger. You have nothing. The word of a rejected omega means nothing against mine. The word of a soul-bonded omega with the gift of true sight might mean more than you think. I held up my wrist, letting the silver marks catch what little light filtered through the trees, especially when the council sees what I can show them. You can't show them anything. But there was uncertainty in his voice now. Can't I? I closed my eyes, reaching for that thread of power. Not to attack, but to reveal. Let me try. The marks flared bright, and suddenly the clearing filled with silver light. Not blinding, but present. Undeniable. And in that light, images formed, translucent and shimmering, but clear enough. Min Seok-jin, younger, alive, backing away from Hyunwoo in an underground garage. The memory played out like a movie projected on mist. Every detail I'd seen in the vision, now visible to everyone in the clearing. Hyunwoo's hand around Seok-jin's throat, the signet ring pressing into flesh. The moment life left Seok-jin's eyes. Lies, Hyunwoo snarled, but he'd gone pale. Tricks. Manipulation. Is it? A new voice cut through the clearing. Elder Song emerged from the forest, followed by 3 other council members. Unji had come through. They'd all seen the projection. Elder Song, Hyunwoo said, recovering quickly. This Omega is using illegal magic to fabricate evidence. Surely you can see. What I see, the elderly Alpha interrupted, his voice carrying the weight of decades of authority, is a very specific memory, one that includes details that were never in the official report of Min Seok-jin's death. Because they're fabricated. The signet ring, another council member said. She was younger, her eyes sharp. The official report stated Seok-jin drowned. No mention of throat bruising? Because there was no throat bruising to mention, Hyun-woo insisted. Then you won't object to an exhumation and re-examination of the body, Elder Song said mildly. The clearing went silent. That's, Hyun-woo said slowly, unnecessary. The case was closed years ago. Reopening it would only cause the family pain. Seok-jin had no family, I said. You made sure of that when you rejected him 2 months before his death. He was alone, just like you wanted. You have no proof of anything except a vivid imagination and parlor tricks. Then prove me wrong. I stepped forward, away from the altar stone. Let them exhume the body. Let them check for ring-shaped bruising. Let them verify cause of death. I met his eyes. If I'm lying, I'll submit to whatever punishment the council deems fit. But if I'm right, if the evidence proves you murdered him, then you face justice. This is ridiculous. I won't be subjected to. You will, Elder Song said firmly. Or you'll forfeit your position as Pack Alpha immediately. Those are your choices. Hyun-woo's rage was palpable now. I could feel it rolling off him in waves. His enforcers shifted uneasily, clearly uncomfortable with how this was playing out. Fine, he said through gritted teeth. Exhume the body. Waste everyone's time. When it proves nothing, this Omega and his alpha pets will be charged with defamation and illegal use of magic. Agreed, I said before Min-jun or Si-won could object. And when it proves everything, you'll confess to every crime you've committed and step down. Deal. We shook on it there in the sacred ground, and I felt the weight of old magic seal the bargain. Hyun-woo felt it too, his eyes widening slightly. What? Sacred ground remembers, Elder Song said with grim satisfaction. You just made a binding vow. The old magic will enforce it whether you want it to or not. Hyun-woo yanked his hand back from mine like I'd burned him. This is a trick. This is justice. I looked at the council members. How long for the exhumation? 3 days, the younger council member said. We'll need proper permissions and specialists. 3 days. 72 hours of Hyun-woo, knowing his lies were about to be exposed. He smiled, and it was the cruelest thing I'd ever seen. 3 days. I can work with that. Then he was gone, his enforcers melting back into the forest with him. The moment they disappeared, my knees buckled. Si-won caught me, his arms steady and sure. You did it, he murmured against my hair. You actually did it. I committed us to 3 days of waiting while a murderer plots our deaths. I'm not sure that counts as winning. It counts as surviving, Min-jun corrected, joining us by the altar stone. And buying time for the truth to come out. Elder Song approached, his weathered face unreadable. That was either very brave or very foolish, young Omega. I'm told it can be both. His lips twitched. The council will provide protection until the exhumation is complete. You'll stay in secure housing, under guard. Thank you, but we have our own security. Min-jun's tone made it clear this wasn't negotiable. The Choi resources are considerable, the elder acknowledged. But Hyun-woo has resources of his own. And 3 days is a long time for a desperate man to work. We'll be careful. See that you are. The old magic has bound him to the truth of the exhumation results, but it hasn't stopped him from trying to prevent those results from being revealed. He looked at me. You've made a powerful enemy, Jihoon Si. I've had him as an enemy since I was 15. At least now I'm fighting back. Indeed. He inclined his head respectfully. The council will be in touch. They left, and suddenly we were alone in the sacred clearing, with the first rays of dawn breaking through the canopy. 3 days, I said tiredly. What happens in 3 days? Either Hyun-woo is destroyed, Si-won said, or we are. I hate those odds. Then let's change them. Min-jun pulled out his phone. I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. Does it involve more death-defying stunts? Worse, it involves your grandmother. I blinked. My grandmother has been dead for 5 years. I know. His smile was sharp. but her notes aren't. And according to my research, she knew more about soul bonds and silver gifts than anyone alive. The mark on my wrist pulsed warm, almost like agreement. Fine, I said. Let's go talk to a dead woman's diary. What's the worst that could happen? The look they exchanged suggested they had several ideas about exactly what could happen, none of them good. But we were out of better options and running out of time. So we went. The drive back into Seoul felt surreal after everything that had happened in the sacred clearing. Dawn painted the city in shades of pink and gold, turning the Han River into liquid fire. Normal people were starting their normal days, completely unaware that three men in a car were racing against time to prevent a murder cover-up from staying buried. My grandmother's things are in storage, I said, breaking the silence. On the east side. I haven't been there since the funeral. Why not? Siwon asked from the driver's seat. Because I couldn't afford the fees, and looking at her stuff made me feel like I'd failed her. I traced the silver marks on my wrist. She always said I was special, that I had a gift. I spent 8 years thinking she was just being kind to her weird grandson. She wasn't being kind, Minjun said from the back seat, his laptop open despite the moving car. She was being accurate. Look at this. He turned the screen toward me. A scanned document, old and faded, with my grandmother's handwriting filling the margins. Han Jihoon, born under the silver moon, rejected by those who fear what they don't understand. But the goddess marks her own, and this child will bridge worlds when the time comes. She wrote this the day you were born, Minjun said quietly. It's in the PAC registry. Your mother tried to have it removed, but registries are permanent. My throat tightened. My mother wanted to erase me before I could even speak. Your mother was a coward who couldn't see what she had. Siwon's hand found mine across the center console. Her loss, our gain. Smooth talker. I'm stating facts. We pulled up to a storage facility that had seen better decades. The security guard recognized me, despite the years, his expression shifting from bored to sympathetic. Jihoon C. Haven't seen you in a while. I've been busy being hunted and discovering magical powers. You know how it is. He blinked. What? He's joking, Minjun said smoothly, appearing beside me with that uncanny alpha speed. We're here to collect some family items. Unit 47. Right. Sure. The guard handed over keys with shaking hands, clearly intimidated by the two very expensive-looking alphas flanking me. Take your time. The storage unit smelled like dust and memories. Boxes stacked to the ceiling, each one labeled in my grandmother's precise handwriting. Kitchen items, winter clothes, books, and in the very back, a trunk I recognized immediately. That one, I said, pointing. Siwon pulled it out, muscles flexing in a way that was definitely distracting and completely unfair given the circumstances. The trunk was locked, but the key was in my pocket. I'd carried it for 5 years without knowing why. The lock clicked open with a sound that felt final. Inside, wrapped in silk that had faded to the color of old pearls, was a leather journal. Smaller than Minjun's family records, but somehow heavier. The cover was worn smooth by decades of handling, and when I opened it, my grandmother's scent wafted out. Jasmine and green tea in home. My eyes burned. Take your time, Minjun said softly. We don't have time. I blinked back tears and started reading. The first entry was dated 60 years ago, written in the careful hand of someone much younger than the grandmother I'd known. Today I met him. The one the elders whispered about. Lee Taman, the silver light. They say he can calm any alpha, that his touch brings peace. They also say he's dying. The power is consuming him because he doesn't understand the balance. I flipped pages, scanning entries. My grandmother had sought out Taman in his final days, had learned from him, had documented everything he told her about the silver gift. Here, I said, finding a passage that made my blood run cold. Listen to this. Taman's greatest regret is using the silver to kill. He says the gift responds to intent, and when he intended death, the power obliged. But death breaks the balance. The silver is meant to connect, to heal, to bridge. When it's used to sever, it turns inward, consumes the wielder from inside. He has days left, maybe less. His skin is starting to crack, silver light bleeding through. He says it doesn't hurt. That's how he knows the end is near. When the power stops causing pain, it means it's winning. Well, that's not ominous at all, I muttered. Keep reading, Siwon urged. There has to be more. There was. Pages and pages of Taemin's teachings, transcribed in my grandmother's elegant script. How to channel the power, how to maintain balance, and most importantly, how to survive it. The key is the bond, Taemin told me. The silver gift is too vast for one person to contain. That's why the goddess gives us bonded alphas. They're not just protectors or partners. They're grounding rods, conduits. The power flows through us, into them, and back again, creating a circuit that keeps it from building to dangerous levels. Without the bond, the power has nowhere to go. It builds and builds until it finds release, usually through violence. That's what happened to me. I resisted the bond, thought I could control the gift alone. I was wrong. I looked up at the twins. He died because he didn't accept his bond. And you accepted ours, Minjun said. That's why you're not cracking apart like he did. Yet. I'm not cracking apart yet. I kept reading, looking for anything that might help us survive the next 3 days. Taemin's final gift to me was a warning and a hope. He said the silver gift comes with a price, always. But that price isn't death if you understand what you're trading. The gift takes isolation and gives connection, takes fear and gives peace, takes weakness and gives strength shared among 3 souls. Tell the next silver light, he whispered to me hours before he died, that the goddess doesn't make mistakes. If they've been given this power, it's because they're strong enough to bear it, strong enough to choose love over fear, connection over isolation, life over death. And if they're not strong enough? I asked. He smiled then, silver light bleeding from his eyes like tears. Then they were never meant to carry it alone. That's what the bond is for. To make us strong enough together. The entry ended there, but there was a pressed flower tucked between the pages. Silverbell, the flower that only bloomed under the full moon. My grandmother left this for me, I realized. She knew. Even before I was born, she knew what I would become. She prepared you, Minjun corrected, gesturing to more entries. Look at the dates. She spent 40 years documenting everything she could find about soul bonds and silver gifts. This isn't just a journal, it's a manual. He was right. The later entries were filled with practical advice. How to meditate to control the power. How to sense emotions without being overwhelmed. How to share strength through the bond without draining the alphas. And crucially, how to defend against attacks without killing. The silver can repel without destroying. It can shield without cutting. The secret is intention. Always ask, what do I want to protect? Never ask, what do I want to destroy? Protection creates barriers. Destruction creates graves. I need to practice this, I said, looking up from the journal, before Hyun-woo makes his move. If I'm going to use this power to defend us, I need to know I won't accidentally kill anyone. Agreed, Siwon said. But where? We can't exactly practice supernatural abilities in public. The Choi estate, Minjun offered. Our family's ancestral home. It's outside the city, completely private, and has wards against observation. No one will know what we're doing there. Your family has an ancestral estate with magical wards, and you're only mentioning this now? You didn't ask. I hate you a little bit. No, you don't. He smiled, and it was softer than I'd seen before. You're bonded to us. You couldn't hate us if you tried. Watch me. But he was right, and we both knew it. The bond hummed between us, warm and constant, and the thought of hating them felt physically impossible. We packed up my grandmother's journal along with a few other items from the trunk. A silver chain she used to wear, a set of meditation beads, and tucked in the very bottom, a letter addressed to me in her handwriting. My dearest Jihoon, if you're reading this, then the gift has manifested and you've found your bonded alphas. I wish I could be there to guide you, but some journeys we must take alone. Or in your case, with 2 stubborn alphas, who will drive you crazy and keep you safe in equal measure. Don't be afraid of the power. It chose you because you're strong enough to wield it with compassion. Your mother couldn't see it, your pack couldn't understand it, but I always knew. You were born to bridge worlds, to bring peace where there's chaos, to choose connection when everyone else chooses isolation. The silver gift will ask much of you. It will show you truths you don't want to see and demand choices you don't want to make. But remember, the goddess doesn't give us burdens we can't carry. She gives us bonds to help carry them. Trust your alphas, trust yourself. And when the time comes to choose between safety and truth, choose truth. Every time. Love always. Grandmother. My hands were shaking by the time I finished reading. Siwon took the letter gently, folding it and tucking it into my jacket pocket over my heart. She sounds like she was remarkable, he said. She was the only person who ever made me feel like I wasn't broken. I wiped my eyes roughly. And I spent 8 years thinking she was wrong about me. She wasn't wrong. Minjun closed the trunk, lifting it easily. She just saw what you couldn't, what you can't, even now. And, what's that? That you're extraordinary. He said it simply, like it was obvious fact. Not because of the power, Jihoon. The power is just a tool. You're extraordinary because you walked into danger to save 2 strangers. Because you're fighting a murderer instead of running. Because even after everything your pack did to you, you choose kindness. That's not extraordinary. That's just being a decent person. Exactly. Siwon opened the storage unit door, checking the hallway before ushering us out. In a world full of people like Hyunwoo, choosing decency is revolutionary. We drove out of the city toward the Choi estate, and I spent the journey reading more of my grandmother's journal. Each entry felt like a conversation with her, like she was sitting beside me offering guidance from beyond death. The bond will feel overwhelming at first, she'd written, like you're losing yourself in someone else. But that's not what's happening. You're not losing yourself, you're expanding, making room for 3 souls instead of 1. It's uncomfortable because we're taught that strength is solitary, but the silver gift teaches us different. Strength is connection. Power is shared. The estate appeared as we crested a hill, and I nearly swallowed my tongue. You call this a house? Estate, Minjun corrected. It's a palace. You grew up in a literal palace. We grew up in a prison, Siwon said quietly. Beautiful, but still a prison. The main house was traditional Korean architecture on steroids, all curved roofs and elegant lines, surrounded by gardens that probably required a full-time staff to maintain. But there was something else, a feeling in the air, like static before a storm. The wards, Minjun explained, seeing my expression. Our family has maintained them for generations. They keep out unwanted attention, both mundane and magical. How do they work? Honestly, no one knows anymore. The knowledge was lost 3 generations back. We just maintain them and hope they keep working. That's reassuring. We parked in front of the main entrance, and an elderly man in traditional clothing appeared immediately. His face lit up when he saw the twins. Young masters, we didn't expect you. Emergency visit, Uncle Sung, Minjun said, bowing respectfully. We need the training hall and absolute privacy. The old man's eyes landed on me, and his expression shifted to something like wonder. He bears the silver mark. He does, Siwon confirmed. Which is why we need privacy. No interruptions, no matter what you hear or see. Of course, Uncle Sung bowed low to me. It's an honor to meet you, Silverlight. The estate has been waiting. The estate has been waiting? For what? For you. He smiled mysteriously. Come, I'll show you to the training hall. The training hall was a massive open space with hardwood floors and walls that were somehow both solid and translucent. Natural light flooded through, but I couldn't see out. The walls are spelled, Minjun explained. Light comes in, but observation can't go out. Whatever you do in here stays in here. Perfect for learning to control potentially deadly powers without witnesses. Exactly. Uncle Sung bowed out, leaving us alone. The space felt charged, expectant, like it was holding its breath. Okay, I said, setting my grandmother's journal on a bench. According to this, the first step is learning to consciously access the power without emotional trigger. How do I do that? The same way you do anything with the bond, Siwon said, moving to stand in front of me. Through us. He held out his hands. I took them, and the bond immediately thrummed stronger. Close your eyes, Minjun said from behind me. His hands settled on my shoulders, warm and grounding. Feel the connection, not just the emotions, but the power flowing through it. I did, and there it was, a river of silver light running from me to them and back again, creating a circuit exactly like Taman had described. Constant, balanced, safe. Now, Minjun continued, his voice soft against my ear. Try to direct it, not push it out, just guide it. Make it visible. I focused on that river of light, imagining it flowing down my arms into Siwon's hands. For a moment, nothing happened. Then my marks blazed bright, and silver light poured from my palms into his. Not violent or chaotic, gentle, controlled. Good, Siwon said, his eyes reflecting the light. That's good. Now pull it back. I reversed the flow, and the light returned to me, settling back into the marks on my wrist. I did it, I breathed. You did it, Minjun confirmed. Now let's try something harder. We spent the next hour practicing. Channeling power. Creating shields of light that could deflect objects Minjun threw at me. Learning to sense danger before it arrived. By the end, I was exhausted but exhilarated. One more thing, Siwon said. The journal mentions sharing strength through the bond. Have you tried that yet? No. How does that work? Give me your wrist. I did. He pressed his thumb against my marks, and suddenly I felt it, his strength flowing into me. Not just physical, but emotional. His certainty, his courage, his absolute conviction that we would survive this. It filled me up until I felt like I could take on the world. Now you try, he said. Give me something back. I focused on the bond, on what I wanted him to feel. Safety, acceptance, the knowledge that he didn't have to be perfect or strong or in control every second, that I saw him, all of him, and chose him anyway. His breath caught. Jihoon. Too much? Not enough. He pulled me closer, his forehead resting against mine. Never enough. My phone shattered the moment with its buzzing. A text from an unknown number. Day 1 down. 2 to go. Sleep well, little Omega. These might be your last peaceful nights. Hyunwoo. Reminding us that we were on borrowed time. We will survive this, Minjun said firmly, reading over my shoulder. You have the power, the bond, and us. He has secrets and lies. Truth always wins eventually. Eventually might be after we're dead. Then we make sure truth wins faster. Siwon's smile was sharp. We have 2 days to prepare. Let's make them count. The mark on my wrist pulsed warm, and I felt something settle in my chest. Not certainty, but determination. Hyunwoo wanted me afraid, wanted me running. But I was done running. Time to fight back. The words had barely left my mouth when my phone buzzed again. Not Hyunwoo this time. Eunji. They moved up the exhumation. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., Elder Song pulled strings, said waiting gives Hyunwoo time to tamper with evidence. The council will be there. You should be too. Tomorrow. Not 2 days from now. Tomorrow. We're out of time, I said, showing the twins the message. Minjun's expression turned calculating. That's actually good. Hyunwoo won't have expected this. He'll be scrambling. Scrambling people tend to do desperate things. I pocketed my phone. Like hire more mercenaries or burn down funeral homes or, I don't know, detonate Seoul. He won't detonate Seoul, Siwon said. Too much property damage. You're not as funny as you think you are. I'm exactly as funny as I think I am. Despite everything, I smiled. Then reality crashed back. Tomorrow morning, that's in 12 hours. What if the exhumation doesn't show what we need? What if the body's too degraded or he somehow got to it already or Jihoon? Minjun's hands cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. Breathe. The sacred ground bound him to the truth of the results. He literally can't tamper with evidence without violating old magic. And trust me, no one violates old magic and lives to regret it. You're sure? I've seen what happens to oath-breakers on sacred ground. It's not pretty. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. Have a little faith. Faith. Right. Because I had so much experience with things working out in my favor. But the bond hummed steady between us, and looking at their faces, something in my chest unclenched slightly. Fine. Faith. But if this goes sideways, I'm haunting both of you with really annoying ghost activities, like hiding your left socks and making your coffee always slightly too cold. Terrifying, Siwon said solemnly. I'm quaking. You should be. I'm very petty when properly motivated. Uncle Sung appeared at the training hall entrance, his weathered face concerned. Young masters, forgive the interruption, but there are visitors at the main gate. Every muscle in my body tensed. Hyunwoo? No. 2 omegas. They say they're from Han Jihoon's former pack, and they need to speak with him urgently. They seem frightened. I exchanged glances with the twins. Did they give names? Kim Jae and Park Minho. My heart lurched. Jae and Minho, 2 of the youngest pack members, barely 19. I'd looked after them when I still lived in the pack house, back when I thought being helpful might make people like me more. It hadn't, but the kids had been sweet. Let them in, I said. But carefully. Could be a trap. Could be, Minjun agreed. Or could be exactly what it looks like. Scared kids looking for help. Uncle Sung bowed and disappeared. 5 minutes later, 2 young men appeared at the training hall door, both looking terrified and exhausted. Jay's lip was split, and Minho had a bruise blooming across his left cheekbone. Jihoon Hyung, Jay gasped, practically falling into the room. Thank God. We didn't know where else to go. I was across the space in seconds, steadying them both. What happened? Who hit you? Hyunwoo's enforcers. Minho's voice shook. We tried to tell the council what we know about Min Sok-jin, and they caught us leaving Elder Song's house. Said we were traitors. Said they'd make examples of us. What do you know about Sok-jin? Siwon asked, moving closer but keeping his alpha presence muted so he wouldn't spook them. Jay wiped blood from his lip. We were kids when it happened, only 9 years old, but we saw things, heard things. He looked at me. You have to understand, Hyunwoo made everyone so scared. No one would talk about it, but we knew something was wrong. Tell me, I said gently. Everything you remember. They did, and with each word, the picture became clearer and more damning. Min Sok-jin had been rejected for the same reasons I was. Couldn't shift, showed no traditional Omega characteristics, was deemed defective. But unlike me, he'd had family in the pack. An older sister who'd fought the rejection. The sister disappeared 2 weeks before Sok-jin died, Minho said. Just vanished. Hyunwoo said she'd run off with some alpha from Busan, but no one ever saw her again. And Sok-jin started acting weird after that. Paranoid. Kept saying someone was following him. Because someone was, I realized. Hyunwoo. Making sure Sok-jin stayed isolated. No witnesses. That's not all, Jay continued. The night Sok-jin died, we snuck out of the pack house. Wanted to see the city. We were stupid kids. He swallowed hard. We saw Hyunwoo's car leaving the underground garage where they found Sok-jin's body. This was at 2 a.m., hours before the body was discovered. And he was alone, but his hands were wet. We could see them in the streetlight. Did you tell anyone? We tried. Our parents told us we were confused, that we must have seen someone else. But it was him. I'd know his car anywhere. Jay's hands clenched. And when you showed that memory in the sacred clearing, when we heard about the exhumation, we knew we had to say something, even if it meant going against the pack. Pride swelled in my chest. These kids, who'd been raised in fear like I had, were choosing courage. You did the right thing. The enforcers don't think so, Minho said bitterly. They said if we testify tomorrow, we'll be marked as traitors. Rejected like you were. They'll carve the marks themselves. They won't, Minjun said firmly. You're under our protection now. Anyone who touches you answers to us. But we're not bonded to you, Jay pointed out. We're still pack law. Hyunwoo can do whatever he wants. Not if you request sanctuary. Siwon pulled out his phone. It's old law, rarely invoked but legitimate. Any Omega who fears for their safety can request sanctuary with another pack. We'll sponsor you. You'd do that for us? You're doing the right thing, I said, standing up for someone who can't stand up for themselves anymore. That deserves protection. Tears spilled down Jay's face. Thank you, Hyung. Thank you. We got them settled in guest rooms, Uncle Sung fussing over them like they were his own grandchildren. Watching them finally relax, finally breathe without fear, I felt something shift in my chest. This was what the silver gift was for. Not just calming rage or fighting enemies, but creating safety for people who'd never had it. You're thinking loud again, Minjun observed, finding me on the veranda overlooking the gardens. I'm thinking that maybe my grandmother was right about all of it. I held up my wrist where the marks glowed softly in the twilight. This power isn't a curse, it's a responsibility. Heavy thought for someone who named their cat Chairman Meow. I contain multitudes. He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. You really do. His expression sobered. Tomorrow's going to be difficult. Whatever they find in that grave, Hyun-woo won't go quietly. I know. I leaned against the railing, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. He'll fight, maybe violently, and you'll be ready. It wasn't a question. I'll have to be. I looked at him. Can I ask you something? Anything. That first day, in the courtyard when I touched you, what did you feel? Really feel? Underneath the rage. He was quiet for a moment, considering. Relief, he finally said. Like I'd been holding my breath for 28 years and suddenly remembered how to exhale. And recognition, even though we'd never met. Like some part of me knew you before I knew you. The bond? Maybe. Or maybe just truth. He moved closer, his shoulder brushing mine. I spent my whole life thinking strength meant being alone, being in control, never needing anyone. His hand found mine. Then you walked into a courtyard with two feral alphas and proved me completely wrong. I didn't prove anything. I just didn't want you to hurt yourselves. Exactly. He turned me to face him. You saw us at our absolute worst, at our most dangerous, and your first instinct was compassion. Not fear, not self-preservation. Compassion. His other hand came up to cup my face. Do you have any idea how rare that is? I'm not that special. You're bonded to us. You're literally marked by the moon goddess. You can see truth with a touch and calm rage with your presence. You're the definition of special. I'm also deeply sarcastic, terrible at budgeting, and my cat judges me constantly. Perfect. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away. Absolutely perfect. I didn't pull away. The kiss was different from Siwon's. Where Siwon was intensity and focused heat, Minjun was slow-burning fire, deliberate, devastating. The kind of kiss that rewrote your understanding of what kissing could be. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, the bond between us had shifted. Deeper, more solid, like another lock clicking into place. Wow, I managed. Yeah, his thumb brushed my lower lip. Wow. Are you two done making out, or should I come back later? Siwon's voice came from the doorway, but he was smiling. Jealous? Minjun asked without looking away from me. Incredibly. But we have more immediate problems. He held up his phone. Hyun-woo just posted a statement on the PAC's official channels. He's claiming the exhumation is a political attack orchestrated by the Choi family to discredit him and take over PAC territories. That's insane, I said. We don't want his territories. Doesn't matter if it's true. He's building a narrative, making himself the victim. Siwon's expression was grim. And it's working. Social media is exploding. Half the comments are calling for the exhumation to be stopped. My phone started buzzing. Messages flooding in from numbers I didn't recognize. Some supportive, but most were vicious. Rejected Omega, trying to destroy a good alpha, because he's bitter. The Choi twins are obviously manipulating him. Attention seeker. Probably lying about everything. Should have stayed rejected where he belonged. I silenced the phone, but the damage was done. My hands were shaking. Don't, Minjun said firmly, taking the phone from me. Don't let strangers who know nothing define you. They're not wrong, though. I am rejected. I am bitter. And I am trying to destroy him. Because he's a murderer, Siwon corrected. Context matters. Does it? Or am I just proving everyone right? That rejected Omegas are damaged and vengeful and not to be trusted. The bond flared with their combined frustration and concern. You're spiraling, they said in unison. I'm being realistic. You're catastrophizing. Minjun pulled me against his chest. Tomorrow the truth comes out. Physical evidence that can't be spun or manipulated. Until then, we ignore the noise. Easy for you to say. No one's calling you defective. No, they just call us cursed, dangerous, and genetically unstable, Siwon said. We're all fighting public perception, Jihoon. At least you're fighting for justice while you do it. He had a point. I took a breath, then another, letting their steady presence calm the panic. Okay, I said. Okay. We ignore it. We focus on tomorrow. And we trust that truth is stronger than spin. That's the spirit. Minjun pressed a kiss to my temple. Now come inside. Uncle Sung made enough food to feed a small army, and you need to eat. Dinner was surprisingly normal given the circumstances. Jay and Minho relaxed enough to tell stories about pack life, and hearing them laugh felt like victory. Uncle Sung fussed and fed us until I thought I might actually burst. But as the evening wore on, tension crept back in. Tomorrow was coming, ready or not. I found myself back in the training hall after everyone else had gone to bed, unable to settle. The space felt different at night, shadows pooling in corners, the spelled walls reflecting moonlight in strange patterns. Can't sleep? Siwon appeared beside me, moving with that uncanny alpha silence. Too much thinking. Want to practice? Burn off some energy? Practice what? Your shields. If tomorrow goes badly, you'll need to defend fast. He moved to the center of the space. Hit me with everything you've got. I'm not going to attack you. Why not? Afraid you'll hurt me? Yes, obviously. Good. His smile was sharp. Use that. Channel the fear into focus. Protection, remember? Not destruction. I took a breath, centering myself the way my grandmother's journal described, feeling the bond, the power flowing through it. Then I pushed. Silver light exploded from my palms, forming a barrier between us. Siwon moved forward, testing it with gentle pressure, then harder. The shield held. Good. Now maintain it while I try to break through. What followed was part training, part dance. He moved around the barrier, probing for weaknesses while I adjusted, learning to shift the shield's shape and strength on instinct. By the time we finished, I was exhausted but confident. You're ready, Siwon said, pulling me close despite my sweaty state. Whatever happens tomorrow, you're ready. I hope you're right. I'm always right. It's very annoying for other people. I laughed against his chest, feeling some of the tension drain away. We stood there in the moonlit training hall, just breathing together, and for a moment everything felt possible. Then my phone lit up with an alert. Not a text this time, a news notification. Breaking. Anonymous source claims Min Seok-jin's sister alive and willing to testify against Han Jihoon. My blood turned to ice. That's impossible, I whispered. She disappeared 8 years ago. Hyun Woo's making a last move, Siwon said grimly, already texting his brother. Fabricating a witness to counter yours. But if she's really alive, if she says I'm lying, then we prove she's been coerced or paid off or doesn't exist. Minjun appeared, laptop already open. I'm tracking the source of the tip now. We spent the next hour trying to verify if Min Seok-jin's sister was actually alive or if this was an elaborate bluff. No conclusive answer emerged, which somehow made it worse. By the time 5 a.m. rolled around, none of us had slept. We dressed in somber colors, appropriate for a gravesite, and drove to the cemetery where Min Seok-jin had been buried 8 years ago. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the headstones in shades of gold and shadow. Elder Song waited by the entrance with the other council members, along with a forensics team and what looked like half of Seoul's news media. Hyunwoo stood on the opposite side, surrounded by his enforcers, looking calm and collected. When he saw me, he smiled, and I knew, with sickening certainty, that he had one more trick up his sleeve. Ready? Minjun asked quietly. I looked at the grave marker bearing Min Seok-jin's name, at the ground that was about to give up its secrets. Ready, I said. The exhumation began. The sound of shovels biting into earth was obscene in the morning quiet. Each scrape of metal against dirt felt like it was digging into my chest instead of the grave. News cameras zoomed in, capturing everything. This was going to be broadcast across Seoul within minutes. Perfect. Either vindication or humiliation, served live to millions. You look nervous. Little Omega, Hyunwoo called across the cemetery, his voice carrying in the still air. Almost like you're not sure what they'll find. I'm sure, I said, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was trying to escape my ribcage. Are you? His smile didn't waver, but I felt the spike of his rage through the bond's edge. Good. Let him be worried. The forensics team worked with methodical care, photographing each layer as they went deeper. Elder Song stood watch, his weathered face impassive. The other council members clustered nearby, their expressions ranging from curious to uncomfortable. This is grotesque, one of them muttered, disturbing the dead over an Omega's fantasy. The sacred ground bound both parties to the truth of the results, Elder Song said mildly. If it's fantasy, We'll know soon enough. Min Jun's hand found the small of my back, a grounding touch. Through the bond, I felt his absolute certainty. He believed me. They both did. It helped. A little. The shovels hit something solid. Casket wood, probably rotted after 8 years underground. The forensics lead called for more delicate tools, and the media pressed closer, cameras jostling for position. "Mr. Choi," a reporter shouted, thrusting a microphone toward Minjun. "What's your stake in this exhumation? Why is your pack defending a rejected Omega against an established Alpha?" "Because unlike some people," Minjun said coolly, "we believe in justice over politics." But the anonymous source claims Min Seok-jin's sister will testify that Han Jihoon had a vendetta against Alpha Hyunwoo, that he's fabricating evidence. How do you respond? I respond by noting that this mysterious sister has been missing for 8 years with no confirmed sightings, and she conveniently surfaces the night before an exhumation that could expose a murderer. Interesting timing. The reporter turned to me next. "Han Jihoon, see, what do you say to accusations that you're manipulating the Choi twins with your Omega abilities?" Before I could answer, Siwon stepped between us, his alpha presence suddenly overwhelming. The reporter actually stumbled backward. "Next person who suggests my bonded Omega is manipulating us loses their press credentials. Are we clear?" Silence. I said, "Are we clear?" Mumbled agreements rippled through the crowd. Siwon stepped back, his hand finding mine, fingers threading through like a statement. Hyunwoo laughed from across the cemetery. "How touching, the cursed twins defending their pet. Tell me, have you informed him yet what happens to people who get close to you? How they tend to end up broken or dead?" Siwon's hand tightened on mine, but he didn't respond. Didn't need to. The implication hung in the air, poisoning everything. "Is it true?" another reporter asked. "The Choi twins have a history of relationships ending tragically. Are you concerned, Jihoon-si?" The mark on my wrist flared hot, and suddenly I was done. Done with the questions, the insinuations, the constant barrage of doubt. "You want to know if I'm concerned?" I pulled away from Siwon, stepping forward so every camera could see me clearly. "I'm concerned that we live in a world where a murderer can stand in broad daylight, surrounded by people who know what he is, and still have the audacity to question my choices. I'm concerned that rejected Omegas are treated like property instead of people. I'm concerned that truth matters less than power." I gestured to the grave behind me. "There's a young man in that casket who was killed for being different, for not fitting into neat little boxes that made people comfortable. His sister disappeared trying to defend him, and for 8 years, no one questioned it because it was easier to believe the lie." The silver marks on my wrist were glowing now, visible even in the morning light. "So yes, I'm concerned, but not about myself. I'm concerned that if we don't start demanding truth, demanding justice, then Min Seok-jin died for nothing, and I won't let that happen." The cemetery was dead silent. Even the birds had stopped singing. Then Elder Song spoke. "Well said, young Omega. Perhaps we should focus less on speculation and more on evidence." He nodded to the forensics team. "What have you found?" The lead forensic examiner, a middle-aged beta woman with kind eyes, stood from where she'd been examining the open casket. Her expression was grim. "The remains show significant trauma inconsistent with drowning," she said, her voice carrying in the quiet. "Specifically, we found a fracture to the hyoid bone in the throat, which indicates strangulation. We also found tissue damage in a distinctive pattern." She held up a photograph. "This pattern matches the shape of a signet ring. Based on the depth and size of the impression, I'd estimate the ring was approximately 20 millimeters in diameter with a raised design." Every eye turned to Hyun-woo's hand, where his signet ring gleamed in the morning light. 20 millimeters. Raised design. Exact match. "That proves nothing," Hyun-woo said, but his voice had lost its smooth confidence. "Many alphas wear signet rings. It's traditional." "True," the examiner agreed. "Which is why we'll need to compare your specific ring to the wound pattern. A simple matter of making a cast and matching the design." "I refuse." "You can't refuse," Elder Song said quietly. "You made a vow on sacred ground to abide by the truth of the exhumation results. The old magic binds you." As if to emphasize his point, the air around Hyunwoo shimmered, the ward binding him to his vow, becoming visible. This is a setup, Hyun-woo snarled, his composure finally cracking. That Omega put false memories in your heads, convinced you to violate sacred ground, all to destroy me because I rejected him. Actually, a new voice cut through the cemetery. That Omega saved my life. Everyone turned. A woman stood at the cemetery entrance, flanked by two police officers. She was thin, worn-looking, with eyes that had seen too much, but her face was unmistakable. Min Suk-jin's sister. Lee Yuna, Elder Song breathed. You're alive. Barely. She walked forward, her steps unsteady. I've been in hiding for 8 years. After my brother died, Hyun-woo threatened me. Said if I questioned the ruling, I'd end up the same way. I ran, changed my name, lived in fear. She looked directly at me. Then I saw the news about Han Jihoon, about someone finally standing up to him, and I knew I couldn't hide anymore. Hyun-woo had gone very still, predator calculating odds. You're lying, he said. You're obviously paid by the Choi family. This whole thing is a conspiracy. Is it? Yuna reached into her bag, pulling out an evidence bag. Because I have the shirt my brother was wearing the night he died. The one the police never logged into evidence, the one I took from his apartment before they could disappear it. She held it up. It has blood and skin cells under the collar, DNA that can be matched to whoever strangled him. The forensics examiner took the shirt with gloved hands, examining it briefly. This appears authentic. We'll need to run tests, but preliminary examination shows blood spatter consistent with strangulation and defensive wounds. And the DNA under his nails? Yuna pressed. My brother fought back. He scratched his killer. That DNA is still there. All eyes went to Hyun-woo's hands. He'd worn gloves to the cemetery, I realized. Long sleeves despite the mild morning, covering something. Remove your gloves, Elder Song commanded. I refuse. Then you violate your vow. The consequences are immediate. The shimmer around Hyun-woo intensified, and he gasped, clutching his chest. The old magic was enforcing the oath, punishing resistance. Fine. He ripped off his gloves, and there they were. Fresh scratches on both hands. Deep ones. The kind that came from fighting for your life. Those are from training, he said quickly. From sparring. Interesting, the forensic examiner said. Because they appear to be approximately 8 hours old, and you claimed you were in meetings all last night. He'd hurt himself. Recently. To make it look like current wounds instead of 8-year-old scars. But the bond let me see truth, and I knew what those marks really were. I closed my eyes, reaching out with the silver gift, and showed everyone what I saw. The memory from 8 years ago. Hyun-woo strangling Min Suk-jin, Suk-jin fighting back, scratching, desperate. The pattern of those scratches matching exactly what was on Hyun-woo's hands now. Because he'd tried to scratch himself the same way, thinking it would provide cover. But he'd gotten the angle wrong, the depth wrong. The marks didn't match a victim defending themselves. They matched someone trying to recreate old wounds. The vision hung in the air like smoke, visible to everyone present. This is illegal magic, Hyun-woo shouted. He's manipulating your perceptions. The sacred ground would reject false visions, Elder Song said. You know this. The old magic only permits truth on consecrated land. The evidence was overwhelming. The body, the sister, the DNA, the vow he couldn't deny without being destroyed by sacred magic. Everything I'd said, everything I'd seen, confirmed by physical proof. Hyun-woo's face twisted with rage. You think you've won? You think this changes anything? He lunged forward, not toward the council or the police, toward me. He moved with alpha speed, crossing the distance in heartbeats, his hand reaching for my throat just like he'd reached for Suk-jin's all those years ago. The bond flared. Both twins moved to intercept, but I was faster. The silver gift exploded from my palms, not to kill but to shield. A barrier of pure light formed between us, and Hyun-woo slammed into it with bone-jarring force. He bounced back, landing hard on the cemetery ground. I told you, I said quietly, looking down at him. I'm done running, I'm done being afraid, and I'm done letting you hurt people. The light from my marks spread, forming a circle around the entire exhumation site. Protection, safety, justice. Han Jihoon, Elder Song said formally. Do you claim right of accusation against Park Hyun-woo for the murder of Min Suk-jin? I do. Park Hyun-woo, the evidence stands against you. The sacred ground has heard truth. How do you answer? Hyun-woo was on his knees, the magic of his broken vow pressing down on him like physical weight. When he looked up, his eyes were wild. I answer that if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. He pulled something from his jacket. A detonator. This cemetery is wired to explode. Everyone dies, or I walk free. Silence, then chaos. People screaming, running, police drawing weapons. The twins moving to shield me. But I saw through it. Through the bond, through the gift. I saw the truth. You're bluffing, I said calmly. Am I? He held up the detonator. Want to test that theory? Yes, actually. I stepped closer, letting the shield drop, trusting what the gift showed me. Because there are no explosives. This cemetery is sacred ground. No violence is permitted, remember? That includes bombs. The wards wouldn't allow it. His finger hovered over the button. You're willing to bet all these lives on your guess? It's not a guess. It's truth. I held out my hand. Give me the detonator, Hyunwoo. It's over. For a long moment we stood there. Him with his useless prop, me with my absolute certainty. Then his shoulders sagged, and he threw the detonator at my feet. It was plastic, cheap, not even wired to anything. I hate you, he said, the words empty of everything except exhaustion. I hate that you survived, that you're standing there glowing like some kind of saint when you're just a broken Omega who should have died quiet. I know, I said, and I meant it. Through the gift, I felt his hatred, his fear, his desperate need to control everything because his father had controlled him the same way. I felt the cycle of abuse that made him into this. It didn't excuse what he'd done, but it helped me understand. I forgive you, I said. He blinked. What? I forgive you for rejecting me, for making me think I was worthless, for trying to kill me. I knelt down, meeting his eyes. I forgive you because holding on to rage would make me just like you, and I choose to be better. The silver marks on my wrist pulsed, and something in the air shifted. The sacred ground recognizing the choice. Forgiveness freely given on consecrated land carried weight. Hyunwoo's face crumpled. I don't want your forgiveness. I know. That's what makes it worth giving. I stood, stepping back. But forgiveness doesn't mean no consequences. You still have to face justice for what you did. The police moved in, cuffing him, leading him away from the grave he'd tried so hard to keep buried. As they passed, he looked at me one more time. You won't last, he said. The gift will consume you like it did Taemin. You'll burn out and die, and they'll move on to someone new. That's what alphas do. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm stronger than you think. Guess we'll find out. They took him away. The crowd slowly dispersed, media scrambling to file stories, council members conferring in hushed tones. The forensics team carefully reinterred Min Sok-jin with promises that his death would be properly investigated now. Elder Song approached, his expression thoughtful. You showed remarkable restraint, Han Jihoon. Many would have struck back. Violence wasn't the answer. No, truth was. And you delivered it. He glanced at the twins. The council will formally recognize your bond and transfer you to the Choi Pack registry. You're free of your former pack's claim. Thank you, Elder. Don't thank me. You did this yourself. He bowed slightly. The goddess chose well. As he walked away, I finally let myself feel it. The exhaustion, the relief, the bone-deep satisfaction of truth, finally surfacing after years buried. Minjun's arms wrapped around me from behind, Suwon moving to stand in front, creating a shelter of their bodies. You were magnificent, Minjun murmured against my hair. I was terrified. Terrified and magnificent aren't mutually exclusive, Siwon said, his hand cupping my face. You faced down a murderer, exposed his crimes, and chose forgiveness over revenge. That's not just magnificent, that's extraordinary. I had help. I looked between them. I couldn't have done any of this alone. That's the point of a bond, Minjun said. Together we're stronger. The mark on my wrist pulsed warm, and I felt it. The circuit complete, power flowing from me to them and back, balanced and safe, exactly like my grandmother had written. What now? I asked. Now, Siwon said with a smile. We go collect your very judgmental cat and officially move you into the estate. Chairman Meow is going to hate you both. We'll win her over eventually. You really won't? We walk through the cemetery toward the waiting car, leaving the grave and its secrets behind. The sun had fully risen now, painting Seoul in shades of gold. A new day, a new beginning. My phone buzzed, a message from Yoonji. You did it. Seokjin can rest now. Thank you. I smiled, typing back a quick response. Then I silenced my phone and tucked it away. No more messages today, I decided. Today is for us. Bold choice, Minjun observed. What if something urgent comes up? Then it can wait. For once in my life, I'm choosing what matters instead of reacting to what's urgent. I looked at them both. And you matter. This matters. The rest of the world can wait a few hours. They exchanged one of those silent twin conversations, then smiled. Deal, they said in unison. We drove back to the estate in comfortable silence, the bond humming contentedly between us. When we arrived, Uncle Sung greeted us with tea and knowing smiles. Jay and Minho were in the garden, laughing at something on one of their phones, safe and healing. And in my borrowed room, in a carrier that Uncle Sung had somehow acquired, Chairman Meow sat glaring at all of us with magnificent disdain. She hates me, Siwon observed. She hates everyone equally, I corrected, opening the carrier. The cat stalked out, surveyed her new territory, and promptly jumped onto Minjun's lap. Traitor, I said. Chairman Meow purred, looking smug. Maybe this would work after all. I sat between the twins on the couch, a judgmental cat on one side and two powerful alphas on the other, and for the first time in 23 years, I felt like I'd found home. Not the place, the people. The bond pulsed warm, and through it I felt their contentment, their relief, their fierce protectiveness, and underneath it all, the growing foundation of something that might eventually become love. We had time now. Time to learn each other. Time to heal. Time to figure out what three bonded souls could build when given the chance. The silver marks on my wrist glowed softly, a reminder that the moon goddess had chosen this path for us, had seen something in the broken Omega, the cursed twins, and decided they belonged together. I was starting to think she might have been right. Hey, Siwon said softly. Where'd you go? Just thinking, I said. About grandmother, about Taemin and Dalbit, about everyone who carried this gift before me. And I think I understand now, why the goddess gives us bonds. It's not about making us stronger in battle or giving us power. It's about making sure we never have to face the darkness alone. Minjun's arm tightened around my waist. Never alone. That's a promise. I'll hold you to it. Good. Outside, Seoul continued its daily rhythm, unaware that in a quiet estate on the outskirts, three souls had found each other against all odds, that a rejected Omega had become a silver light, that two cursed alphas had found their peace, that sometimes the broken pieces fit together better than the whole ones ever could. The end. Or maybe, just maybe, the beginning. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. If that ending wrecked you, hit subscribe. The next chapter drops soon.